Uh-oh, ladies and gentlemen, looks like we are live. Greetings once again. I wasn't planning on going back to back when I said more regularly, but things have been popping up on my YouTube page here, and I'm like, what is really happening up in this camp? So tonight we're just gonna set the record straight, and I promise we won't be here long. I put a few links in the back chat, and if someone could be so kind as when we get to that point, if we could actually um, post the links in the chat for those that are coming in. I'll give everyone an opportunity. I know they're getting alerts. They probably have their entertainment for today. I'm pretty sure of that. So I just want to say greetings to everyone on the panel. And I know we have a rare, very special guest. If she wanted to say hi to those that are in the YouTube land and those on the panel, some may know her, most know her, some may not, which is probably a good thing. But with that, I'll yield the mic, and then I guess we'll go and everyone can do their introductions, and we can go ahead and get this show on the road. And just like that, she's quiet. So we're going to go on to Sister Gabrielle Union. Can you fill us in what's happened within the last 24 hours or so? I know it's been action packed, and you've been outside in the blizzard.
Yeah, it's rough out there. It's rough out there. I saw a couple of lawn chairs, saw the tumbleweeds, wind, trees blowing. It's rough. It's the blizzard outside. It is a blizzard. I put the links in the chat, I think. Wait, can you hear me?
Yes, you're going to get the people information overload if you put all of them in the chat.
Oh no, they're not in the chat yet. But
okay.
Hurrah, hurrah.
Yeah, we only put them in there. I tell you, that's why I didn't pass out the test. I always pass out the exam sheets to Sister Gabrielle Union last, because she won't me and said, "Do not start until after I tell you to begin." That'll be the first thing on the instructions. She'd be like, "I'm finished, doo-doo." And I'm like, "You didn't even read the instructions." And the instruction says don't start until I tell you to. Just write your name on it and turn it in. And you done answered all 57 problems before I finish passing everything else out. Don't click that button to hit those links yet.
I could have sworn I heard them say don't even turn it over until I hand them all out.
Oh, I heard somebody put the links in the chat.
Look, that's what she stopped listening at.
See, you see how we working here? You see how we doing it?
I'm getting over the blizzard. I'm just drying off.
My check.
Oh, but the Bones is in his house. I just want to say, like I said again, greetings to those that have come on board. We're just going to, like I say, just kind of dispel some things, and greetings to those in the chat as well. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're going to try this again. We're going to do take 2, but we're going to start this time with Sister Gabrielle Union. You can fill us in on how your day has been. I know it's been very adventurous, to say the least. But if you could just give us a synopsis on what have you been up to today?
I have been reading today. I have been reading and listening to.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Words.
Okay. I was gonna say, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. But know, sellout. I hope you got plenty of rest last night, sir. I know you put your feet up there like Rick James, and then you were out for the count, man.
Yep, I am rested. Not to be confused with a few other folks in the future.
Brother Bones, I see you still been dropping them dime pieces, sir.
Just a little something. Peace, everyone. Peace. How everyone doing this evening?
Hey, Bones.
CDBG.
See, man, you've been passing out more assists than Urban Magic, Showtime Johnson in the mid-'80s, man.
I mean, it's mainly to show people that despite what people want to say or might want you to believe, that these programs do exist. And that the only reason we're not benefiting from it because we're not accessing, we're not applying ourselves to it. I mean, so I'm going to keep showing evidence and keep on communities that's constantly being rebuilt and constantly being brightened up every day by these programs that's here. I mean, how else do people think things are really built? You know, you're knocking things that you never even taken the time out to research to find out how it works, what it's about, what's the gains from it. I mean, come on, man.
You know, and that's the point that gets me more than anything is when they say, don't do what Cobb and them are telling you to do. I don't know what to do, but just don't do what they're telling you to do. I mean, how does that sound, really?
Repeal and replace. With what? With what?
It's like, just don't do what they saying, but I really don't have a plan that action. We talking about putting stuff together. And again, A2 is really Baby New Year with the big ears and the top hat and the whole nine. It's going from place to place. Enjoy.
Figuring out what to do or actually seeing what people are doing. I mean, all the towns, all the cities, all the people names in every video, look them up. Or people think we got that much time that we got a whole studio audience faking USDA videos.
Dramatization.
I mean, look at the projects in your community. You'd be surprised where the funds are coming from. And again, how can you knock something if you're not even going to your local politicians, your local city hall, and investigating these programs? How hard is it to ask your local representatives about community block grants, USDA grants and loans, HUD Section 3, the different USDA grant programs from 104, 105, 128, 514, 512. I mean, these things are here. And like we keep saying, if we don't use them, then they get removed from our community. People complain when you see gentrification and stuff, but that happens because we are not participating. It's too easy to sit back and keep pointing the finger at somebody else. But it comes a point in time we have to start pointing back at ourselves and asking ourselves, okay, what are we doing right or what are we doing wrong or what are we just not doing, period? And if these things are built in infrastructure, communities, schools, everyday needs, and we're not accessing them, just to me, I think that'd be a place to start.
And I agree with you, especially when they always throw out, oh, it's about the kids. It's about the kids. It's like, okay, well, why are your kids still going through that when it just really doesn't make sense? That was a question that was asked, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, Gabrielle Union. But I just happened to, you just channel surf, and I was there, and I overheard when they said there's nothing out there what these programs and stuff that's going on with the kids. I'll say this again because if it really is about the kids, I've mentioned this program before, and I will say it again. It is VAWA, Violence Against Women's Act. VAWA. I'll say it again. VAWA. I have seen it work the way it's supposed to work. If you need emergency shelter, emergency relocation, because yes, it mentions Violence Against Women Act, but it covers men, and especially covers those when you have children, regardless of gender. It just happened to be what it's, because they always come up with these slick acronyms that have the people there that work at these agencies forget. But please, especially this time of year, it is already cold or starting to turn cold, and these little ones need shelter. Again, if you're in a situation and you don't know what to do, call, and I wish I had the number right in front of me, but call your local housing authority and mention VAWA, and you need to talk to someone. Or better yet, just go up there and sit there in the lobby till someone comes to see you about VAWA. They will pay for your relocation, including the movers, help you with the deposit that you need, and pay several months in rent for you. Now, don't just come because you just feel like it. It has to be a situation, and they know that you're in dire needs to do that. Because I know some people out there within the sound of my voice will use that program and try to take advantage of it. Don't do that. Leave the program for people that actually need those slots. So again, VAWA, Violence Against Women's Act. So please, if you know someone that is in need, look up that program. It actually works in real time. It does not take them long. It's not weeks and all that stuff. They don't do that at all. If they don't have a place for you, there's also funds available to put you up in an extended stay hotel until you get situated. So please, 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 when people say about the programs and people try to say, oh, you slaves, and I like I say, I still chuckle at that because that was part of, again, a continuation of the 1866 peace treaty and the 1866 Civil Rights Act. They go hand in hand. Now, although we've been talking about these things, I noticed that the bells, lights, and whistles finally went off when they heard Dr. Claude Anderson. Now, I've been following Dr. Claude Anderson, and like I say, no one is perfect. And I'm not saying that I agree with everything that he's saying, but I at times, but I will say this: he has been talking about things and programs as long as I can remember. So people are now just catching on to what he's been saying, but I've been knowing about Dr. Claude Anderson at least for 35 years, and I'm not a young buck, but I'm not that old as well. So people are just now figuring out what he's saying after he went on the Breakfast Club, and that means he actually has tapped into a new audience. So people are listening. Although I do know that Cobb and them have been saying that, talking about these programs for a while. With that, I'm gonna mute myself, and in the moment we're gonna jump right on in. I'm gonna share my screen. I know Brother Thomas had a prior commitment, so when he comes in, but I finally figured out how to do some things here. But yeah, this evening we're gonna, and it may take a little bit longer. I wouldn't expect it to come on tonight, but I just kept saying stuff and hearing stuff that people keep talking about Ladino, and they stop right there at the Iberian Peninsula. They don't go back any further than that. They start right there. And that's why I say again, anytime you're dealing with a culture and you come in at the fourth quarter, you missed everything. You missed everything that has transpired up until that point. And you really don't know what's going on. And that's not a shot at anybody. That saying is no one knows everything about everything. But just because someone has a particular title or they have a particular status does not mean that they know everything. Again, I always say, study the culture. So when you get into the culture and you start to understand why certain words mean certain things, you'll have a better understanding. Matter of fact, I'll give an example, and then anyone could jump in. If anyone has seen the movie, and shout out to those in the chat, and I apologize, and I'll give my shout outs to you all individually here shortly, because I see the fresh faces. I see someone in particular. I'm glad that she was able to join. I'm glad that she's back on YouTube as well, and I'll give you a shout out in just a minute. But it's Glory Road, and there's that scene when they went to the party on the other side of the tracks. And they took the gentleman that would be classified as white or European with them. And they were going and they were teaching him, they were sitting out on the porch, and they were teaching him our verbiage, our lingo, or our slang, or what was translated now, what we call ebonics. And he was talking about bad. He's talking about bad. You know, that's not, he's like, no, not bad meaning bad, bad meaning good. To take that phrase out of Run DMC. Y'all seen that movie Glory Road? Matter of fact, like I said, it's dealing with the first all black, or what they call black or Negro, starting 5 in the NCAA, and they won the national championship out of UTEP, University of Texas, El Paso. If you haven't watched that, you need to check it out. But he was telling them about understanding the vernacular. We read certain things and we try to put these things in today's terminology, and it will not work at times because things have changed. I'll give another example, and I won't say the word, but there's a particular word that the English discuss when it comes to, or they mention when it comes to dealing with a cigarette. And over here, it is a derogatory statement for a particular group of people. You can't say that word. But then if you're reading literature when that's what it meant, you can't change that. But like I said, we're living in the digital age, so you start to see how these books are being digitized, and they use words like African American, African American, African American. I saw a video of a gentleman. He does a lot of research about ancient buildings, ancient structures, and they kept using the term African American, and I'm like, how this can't apply? This does not apply. How are you going to call these people African Americans? Because he was talking about Liberia and the ancient structures that were over there in Liberia. So he kept saying these African Americans, they kept shipping these African Americans to Liberia, and he was talking about in 1816 and all of this, and I'm like, you can't use that verbiage when it comes to those they was shipping over there. These were American Indians, although I understood what he was saying. But for those that don't understand, they're thinking like, oh, yeah, they're shipping people back. And I'm like, no, that was not the case. It was a brand new crop of people. So if you're saying that these were people that were shipped over here as slaves and then shipped back to Liberia, if I'm from there, first of all, I'm not stopping in Liberia. What's to keep me there? I'm going back to my homeland. And if my homeland is Liberia, then why didn't the people that lived in that area recognize these people getting off these ships to go back to Liberia? Why do you think it caused such an uproar and a conflict? And why do you think it caused a civil war over there? Just something to think about. With that, I yield the mic, and I'm going to go ahead and get set up. If anyone wants to jump in, feel free, like I say, because this is truly democracy. Unlike people thinking about those Cherokee and those high cheekbones and thought it was a monarchy. No, it's democracy. Just a little note out there for anybody talking about their Cherokee and talking about their empresses and all that kind of stuff. Well, with that, I yield the mic. I'm sorry, I'm out. I yield the mic. I cannot believe the Gabrielle Union hadn't said a word.
Well, technically, what I was reading on was the Violence Against Women Act that's been established for the last 25 years.
For how long?
25 years.
Isn't that a quarter of a century?
Yeah, it was first put up by Bill Clinton, and then taken to the Supreme Court. There were some. It's an actual act. Um, Shout out to TMH because an act comes into play when things happen. So then that's how you get laws. But it was established. It was first put forward by Bill Clinton. And then it went to the Supreme Court. When it went to the Supreme Court, there were certain things in the act that were deemed to be unconstitutional. So then back to the drawing board, and it was pushed forward again by Barack Obama. But it's been live and kicking for 25 years, just perfecting it over time. And when I say 25 years, I mean 1990s.
You mean so if anyone that has been going through an issue where they needed to be relocated rather quickly, that's been available for the last 25 years, 2.5 decades. Is that what you're telling us?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just want, just in case, because sometimes, some people hear things, but they only hear it when certain people say it. So I want to make sure that you heard it two different ways from two different people.
Yeah, it's not, and you are correct. Even though the act itself is Violence Against Women Act, it doesn't cover just women. It also covers men. It also covers men. It's not just for women. It's also for men too.
I just want to
They
make
have
sure.
a lot of resources. I mean, a lot. It's like a whole program to make sure even relocating, reestablishing yourself, getting jobs, other programs that they have attached to, and the resources and the grants that elder abuse. Yeah, the grants that they have. What is it? Where was it? 1.6 million. Oh, let me not lie.
Yeah,
1.6 billion. I'm sorry. See, I don't
yeah.
know. It's billion. 1.6 billion.
So that was more than what Dr. Evil was asking for, because he only asked for $1 million. So you saying that it's a multiple of $1 million to get to $1.6 billion.
Yeah, that's what they have invested into this program. And like I said, you are absolutely correct. It's not just for women, it's also for men, but also elderly. So just on what I've read so far, basically, if you are in a situation, whether you're man, woman, elder, or younger child, this program, all the resources that it provides for you for housing. Let's see. Hold on. I'll tell you the list. Okay. Housing, job resources, and also I guess they assign, depending on where you're at and depending on the situation, they'll actually assign certain officers to your case, depending on. But even after prosecution and all that happens, they're still assigned there to ensure that whatever programs that you are a part of under this program, you're okay. Even down to paying for legal fees. Uh, if I guess if it's really really bad, like medical expenses.
So this program just
Oh,
doesn't drop you off somewhere and leave you, right? Based on what you
guess
just read thus far.
guess what is also part of this? It also has Native American women in here, Native American men.
Oh snap!
Again, that's why we go hard when people be asking about solutions and help and knowing conditions that a lot of us do face in our neighborhoods. A lot of our family members face, friends face, co-workers, and that for people to tell you not to apply yourself to your local community, or if you get the help that you need from programs that was designed from the hard work off of your ancestors back, that means you're an agent or a sellout or something. I mean, come on. If we really talk some fixing the conditions, the problems, the ailments of our community, and you wonder why the world looks back at it funny, because the tools are right in front of us. All we need is the tools, and we have 25
Mm.
years. 25 years have been around. How many of us have people that have been damaged that could have used this? People too busy playing while people actually losing real lives out here.
And the main thing is what says about the representation in court, so you don't end up in a situation, because we've seen it. Everyone knows someone that has gone through that cycle, and we see it too often that men and women and children end up seriously hurt or worse because they thought that there was no outlet for them. So when people say, I'm not paying no taxes, this is a program to where your money goes. And quiet as it's kept, I guarantee you that everyone on this panel and everyone in the chat knows at least one person that can benefit from this program right now. I yield the mic.
That's why I say again, when are we going to stop listening to foolishness and start informing ourselves? It's funny to me as you get older that you realize the majority of things that people taught us to stay away from were the things that we needed to learn the most about.
That's why I said the things that our ancestors were getting assassinated for and lynched for, you may want to go check that out. And not just make a blanket say, well, they did this or they did that. What were they talking about? Again, what was, and we talked about him, oh man, months ago. It's been almost a year now. What did Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, what was he talking about? We coming to get our check. What did he mean? He didn't mean just a check that was written out and endorsed to you. He was talking about these programs that were being established
for you.
Then Dr. Claude Anderson comes on the Breakfast Club the other day. Now everybody's getting the bells, lights, and whistles. All he's doing is saying the same thing that had been said. Same thing Brother Malcolm X was saying. It's the same thing. It's no different. It's the same thing. But now it's like, hey, like I said, again, I'm one of those, I don't care who gets the credit for it. Like you can say that you heard it from somewhere there first, and you can knock yourself out. But you know, and I know that you know that I know that you know that I know. We both know better than that. You know who you are. I yield the mic.
And I mean, that's what it boils down to. applying yourself, using what's here to help yourself out of your conditions, and then not being content once you help yourself, informing as many as your people as possible. Our voices mean nothing if we don't use them. And you use your voice by activating in your local communities. Change what you can change. To walk in the room and try to go for the biggest problem in the room when you haven't even solved the basic one, that's wasting time. We had the ability to fix the things that we can fix.
And now's the time. Talk is over. Talk is really over. It's time for action. And I hope my hope is that someone actually takes in that information and jots it down and shares it with someone and takes the opportunity. And I appreciate you, Brother Bones, for doing what you do and actually being the point of this arrowhead to get things done. Because, people don't understand that when you are dealing with any type of movement like that, the ones in the front always get the pushback and the most resistance to make it easier for everyone else. That's why if you notice that when geese are flying as a flock, that they form that V formation, because the one in the front, and then every now and then that one in the front will rotate to the back. They'll rotate naturally. So I appreciate you starting off and being the first leg on this relay and actually taking these things and implement them. So I appreciate you. And I will tell you, those in attendance, there are bigger and better things coming. And Brother No Sellout, if you hadn't put your feet out up on Eddie Murphy's couch yet, could you give that email address, please?
Assembly at gmail.com. Look, I don't want to leave no seconds out there for you to think that I was just waking up to hear that. I am listening. I am here with the piece to the panel, piece to the chat. Assembly at gmail.com.
Oh, man. Yeah, I put my feet up on this couch. No, I'm going to put my feet up on any couch. I got more sense than that.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
And that even I forget at times is that autonomous assembly is what, 8-9 months old. Thinking about it, when Brother James shared the information, all we did was, I think, looked at every video, every piece of information, every program that they had. I mean, a 5-minute look, you will see that every program is there. Everything checks out. You can vet it yourself. It's there. Especially when you go to your local. When you deal local, you realize the representatives are local. You can actually go in, sit down, and talk to these people.
You have an opportunity to see them at least twice a month, or and that's at a minimum. You're going to see, if you don't even go and schedule a private meeting with them, which those that don't understand, they are more than happy to sit down with you, especially when you're talking about programs, because again, they love to showcase these programs. Why do you think they do these videos? Like what you put in Cobb County.
Yep.
Just looking at all the programs, when a senior is able to rebuild her steps and porch, instead of trying to get a GoFundMe or PayPal or have or sell chicken dinners, you have funds readily available, and you not only have to do it for one, you can do it for multiple people in your community. It doesn't have to stop with one. And then you patting yourself on the back because you sold enough fish plates to get one house done. When you can actually do the whole singers on your block. Think about it. And all you have to do is put in the sweat equity. You don't have to have liquidated assets, just have the will to want to do it. That's it. You don't even have to. You don't have to know a Phillips from a flathead. There are programs out there that will get the people to do it. Do you not know that Home Depot has a program that's along with CDBG, that they will come out and they will do seminars, they will rebuild playgrounds for free?
Yes, they do. Listen, relatives. The first thing that we undertook here at A2 is in the city of Tifton. And I think I know the A2 panel and a couple of people got to hear Miss Leanne in the daycare. They remodeled a daycare from the ground up off of these grants and funds. So when people tell you that it don't happen and it don't work, don't worry. Once everything fits, we will be dropping the video. It actually works, relatives. We're doing it here. It costs you nothing but some time to just inform yourself on the population of your local area, the businesses in your local area, the needs in your local area. Like we said before, you got a problem with the schools and stuff. Okay, there's grants and funds and stuff to start the school. There's particular resources you need for children in the neighborhoods and the communities. There's grants for these things.
Did you say grants?
Grants on grants on grants.
And does the grant mean you don't have to pay the money back as long as you fulfill your part of the contract?
Bingo. Listen, they got programs to where they're giving people home loans, relatives. Again, home loans, where you don't make a first payment until 25 years after you've been in the home. It's on the website in black and white, writing for you. Some programs, if you got a credit score of 600, it's automatic.
I think you need to say that again.
Some programs, if you have a credit score of 600, it's automatic. And you can have a cosigner. They have programs where normally you would have to put $39,000 down to buy a home. Using particular programs, you can leverage that. Now that becomes $3,900 on a home. Now that $39,000 turned around and bought 10 homes. This is how they're doing it, relatives. This is how it's done in America. If you think businessmen are building out the money of their pocket, if you think construction companies are using their profits to do construction, then I'm sorry. You have no idea how business works. If you're spending the money out your pocket to conduct business, it's not going too far.
You'll be broke in, see, in about 5 years. That's why they say about these small businesses, how they go under in about 2 to 5 years. Because if you're steady using your money, constantly using your money instead of taking advantage of these programs like that, like I said, to be able to build a park or rebuild a park for the kids in your neighborhood, to go to the Small Business Administration. Do you not know that you can get brand new equipment that people just leave at the airport? They have a program to where you can get stuff for a penny. I know some of you have seen those infomercials where they say, "Oh, I only paid," and it's like some kind of you bidding on it or whatever. It's like, "Oh, I only paid 20 cents for this brand new laptop." You don't even have to go through that program. It's through the Small Business Administration. That's how the people are doing it. They're getting this stuff off the Small Business Administration, and if they buy it for a penny and sell it for $1, they've already made 99 cents. That's what they're doing. They're getting all of this stuff. And to be a part of the Small Business Administration, you don't even have to have a business yet. You can just go in and learn and network. They have classes for free. Free.
Online. Yeah, you can sign up online. I'm always in one of them webinars. I put so much time into it, I don't think I miss a webinar. The same thing with HUD and USDA. It's so simple. If you want to be informed on it, just put your email. Trust me. Every grant, every loan, you're going to get a ding, and 10 come out a day. All type of programs for infrastructure, clean running water, communication.
I just wanted to throw that out there. Again, I'm not going to keep the people long. I promise. We're only probably going to go about another 30, 45 minutes. So I'm glad, as I said, because I'm more about actually getting feet to the ground. And that's why you look at the Taunton's Assembly motto, it's the gathering of the minds that do the work. When you put it to work, when you put it to application, that's that sweat equity. I'm also here because I don't want anyone to think, oh, see, we got Brother Thomas, and Thomas. Now he's setting up. I don't want to get him off track, but I wanted to touch on a few things. Like I said, that I as I was sitting there, and some of you have probably seen the preview that I put out, just sitting there, just kicking it on my couch. I pulled it for the no sellout, and I'm like, just scanning through the YouTube, and I'm like, what? Here we go again. So we're actually going to discuss this language barrier that's got everyone hung up. And I say this for this reason, and I don't mean any harm. But when you see a person's agenda that keeps leading you to this out of Africa theory, it's kissing cousin sister is evolution, is eugenics, period. There's no other way around it. So when you have a people that are sitting here and they're coming out with a video after, and I'll say this, and someone spread like, oh yeah, here we go, to try to shut people down. And I don't know if this person that's sharing the link dealing with the Ladino language, I don't know if he listens to this channel or not. It really doesn't matter to me. But I'm pretty sure he has someone within his circle that does listen. They might not ever comment in the chat, but they do listen. So we're going to go through this and use this as a re-teaching moment. We have to go back and reflect. As you do to my former student, we're going to the corner, and there's a mirror, and I had them to look at themselves. Let's reflect. We've already had the discussion from these same people, right? Just last night, not even 24 hours ago, we had the discussion about corn. And we're going to go back to that, but not tonight. But we had the discussion about corn. And when the people that live in that land, that are indigenous or aboriginal to that land, when they tell you we came from the red corn, I don't know any other way to stress it. I don't know any other way to accent it. They're telling you. So we're going to get into some of it, and I tried every other way to send it. I don't know why they don't want me to send it, but I'm going to keep trying to do it, like I said, because I'm one that when I transition, I want to make sure that everyone knows what I know and then some. So you'll be able to know some things that I don't even know. So we're going to talk about this language of dealing with Ladino, because we've talked about it before. But we're going to go back to where it all began as far as what we're discussing. What I have put, and I hope everyone can see, can everyone see my screen? I hope they can. I'm hoping that those in the chat can see.
Yeah. It's showing in the chat too. I mean, yeah.
Okay, because I wanted to make sure. Now this was from a gathering, a meeting, and this was the discussion that was had from the group of Yucatec Maya. Now this was a time when the elders decided that they would be on video, but they did it in such a way to where they didn't know they were on video, if that makes sense. They didn't want to know. So these are just a few of the words in translation and what they mean. And then we're going to go back and we're going to look at some of these other ancient lands and some of these other ancient languages. And you're going to see how these words mean basically the same thing. And although they may be spelled differently, but they are pronounced the same. I don't know, someone's mic is hot. But Thomas, I think your mic is hot. I think he's over there brewing some coffee. But I wanted to start it. So can everyone? I hope everyone in the chat can actually like read it. If not, I will try to send it again to the rest of the panel on A2, and you can distribute it as you will. Because we're going to touch on a few of these words and what they mean. So this is from the group again of wise ones and elders and the dons. So where you hear the terminology of don. You've heard it said before about like Don Carlo, Don Juan. Don just means those that are that are the wise ones. And what the words that we use even today that we don't realize, we use a form of these words that have been passed down, but we still use the words that derive from these basic core words that are Maya. And when I say Maya, you'll hear me say interchangeably Maya, pre-Maya, Olmec, and Uli, because they're the same people. Because again, the Maya will tell you that the pre-Maya or Olmec, or you'll hear about one of the prophets in that collection of books that you call the Bible talking about, he saw a wheel in the middle of the wheel. That's what he's talking about. Your clock, your calendar, your timekeepers. So anyway, I just want to delve into it, and I hope everyone can see it. I can't see the chat right now because I'm mixing and scratching. So I hope everyone can actually see where this comes from. And again, if anyone has any questions, please let me know. But I would, if I have to chop it up into 45 different sections, I will make sure that you all have it with A2 and you can distribute it as you please. That is some words that I just want to bring out. Is if you see under A, they try to put it out in order alphabetically according to English, because in this region here, you have Maya speakers, because there are different dialects of Maya or Mayan, and you have Spanish speakers, and you also have a lot of English speakers, especially when it comes to Belize, because with Belize, English is the primary language. But they still use words interchangeably. And we're going to get to a link here. Not yet, Sister Gabrielle Union. I know you're ready to hit that trigger. Don't do it yet. But one of the links that we're going to share, they're going to discuss that the people of this region still live in this region today. And that includes the Carib, the Guatemalans, that includes those of Belize, that includes those that are called Garifino. These are the same people. Those that are called Maya, all that are called Indios. We discussed last night about dealing with that Indian corn. Why was it called Indian corn? See, these are the things we have to start asking ourselves. Once again, So I wanted to look at the second word. Well, we could go to the first word, aban. Aban meaning weed or scrub. But I really wanted to get to the ak, the second word. I hope everyone can see that. The second word, the generic name of the sea and land turtles, dwarf. And the reason why I say this because you're going to see the connection between these ak or these turtle people because again, you've heard over and over, right, that this is called Turtle Island. Well, why was this called Turtle Island? So now we're going to get why others call this, and we call this Turtle Island. There are 5 elements, I'll say again, of a civilization. I'm not going to break it down tonight for time's sake, but there are 5 elements to a civilization. One being the written script. Without a written script, according to academia, you have no people. You had no civilization. That's not my words. That's according to academia. Look up the 5 elements of civilization. So don't take Doodle Vision's word for it. Don't say James Flames told me this. Choctaw Jimmy told me. Look it up for yourself. Like I say, but this is the most astute chat in the cosmos. So we're going to start talking about the Turtle Island. What is this Turtle Island? Who are these people of the Turtle Island? I'm glad that you asked. If someone could please, I know, Sister Gabrielle, you still there?
I'm here.
Could you please for me pop in the link to the first link that I had in the back chat, please? Don't tell me you got about 25 more windows up. Hold on, let's see if it's in the chat. I don't see it as of yet.
It's showing gray on my side.
Hot diggity dog. I thought I made you an admin.
If she don't have a wrench, she can't post a link.
Which one?
Are you talking about the buried mirror link?
Mesoamerica is the first one.
You know what? I have your other as yeah, I need to change that. That link, when you get an opportunity, y'all can click on it because I want to keep sharing my screen and I want to go down to hit down this list. But it talks about the people that live in that land and live in those regions today are still there. They just moved out of the city and back into the hills and the more rural areas because they don't want to deal with the new people that have come on board in that area, and especially when it comes to Mexico City. That's why a few months ago I had posted a video about the Maya, and they were asking if there was what we classify as racism, which we understand that the Maya is not a race but a culture. But the best way that those that have a westernized European philosophy on things, that they were asking, are they racist? And you know, and the lady that worked at the bar, she was very honest. She was like, yes. She said, because you know they call them, you know, don't be an Indios. You know, that's what they say. Don't be an Indian. And so this is the issue that has been going on in that region. So people stay there, and then you have those people again that look like us but have taken on that mentality of those that live out in the rural areas or less than. And in most cases, they share the same blood. So I say again, it has nothing to do with people that look like you, and it has it has nothing to do with the people that are dealing with you with being blood related. It has everything to do with the culture. That's the most important part, is dealing with the culture. So that link breaks down about those that are actually in that region and those that are saying, hey, they've been in this region, they haven't gone anywhere, and they're keeping this custom. So this is where this group conversation started having with the elders and those that were there, the scribes that were taking notes, and the wise ones that were there, and everyone that was taking notes. And these were just certain words, other words that I'm going to share at a later date. Like I said, it's just so many, just even off of here. But the one was dealing with the ark. And so when we deal with the ark of dealing with the land or the sea turtles, it's telling you dealing with these people and who they were and why what they call North America, because it wasn't all of the Americas that were called Turtle Island. It was only North America that was called Turtle Island. And I'm going to break down why, and things will start to make a lot of sense. Because yesterday we talked about this day that everyone, well, I don't say everyone, a lot of people take off to spend time with family, and they talk about the trees and all that, not understanding dealing with the pine tree and the significance of the pine tree and the pine cone. Very significant. So we're going to get in, and like I said, we're going to get into well, I don't say an explanation, but a deeper understanding, because we're going to get into the culture. And if anyone has any questions in the chat, someone if they're monitoring the chat, please let me know, because I don't want to, ramble on. But I wanted that link to be in there, so at your own leisure you can read that it's telling you that the people are still there, the importance of the people still being there. But I'm gonna, if you can put in that second link, and I'm gonna read just a little bit of that second link, because all this is gonna start to tie in, and it's gonna make a lot of sense.
I posted that second link in the chat.
Thank you. You're way too kind. So the second link, it's going to discuss the Micmac. As it's been stated before, the Micmac, it is the tribe that started to spread the language of Ladino. So let me go back again and explain some things for those that have a tough understanding. When plates, copper plates and gold plates, were discovered in North America, they were written in different languages. They found them written in 3 different languages. One being Arabic, one being Egyptian, and the other being Hebrew. But it is not a Yiddish Hebrew. And this is where people get caught up. It is what is called Paleo Hebrew, which is ancient Hebrew. And that ancient Hebrew, I want to break it down for you. Hebrew, any of those that are spending time studying the collection of books called the Bible, if you deal with the book that they call the Genesis, or the beginnings of who the people are, don't get caught up in this being, oh, it's only 6,000 years old, and that's not the case. This goes much further than that. And to get you off track, as we talked about last night, how can you have a nativity scene talking about camels? How you going to have in the collection of books that you call the Bible talking about corn? When let them tell it, these things were not discovered or not known because that was the old world, and these crops of corn, these creatures called camels, were in what we call, or they call, the New World. So that lets you know there's been some finagling going on. But I digress. Let's get to this second link, and we're going to discuss the Micmac. As you can already tell, because I know people going to get caught up and they're going to look at the pictures because they know that people love the coloring books. And all we do, I used to be in school and you get those pictures because you get the books that have the most pictures. Because they say, oh, check out a book in the library. Okay, I read it. It's got like 4 words and 89 pictures in it. So don't get caught up in the pictures. So we see that they have the Micmac, but we know those are Cajuns, aka Melungeons, not the original Micmac. But let's get into the meat of the matter. It says one of the most fascinating histories in the settlement of Nova Scotia is of that of its original inhabitants, the Micmac. I could stop right there because again, Nova Scotia, they try to say, oh, they were runaway slaves or former slaves. Not the case. They always lived there in Nova Scotia. You will find that it was the first Negro hockey league in Nova Scotia.
And for the records, Nova Scotia was settled, all of Nova Scotia was settled by the Micmac, not just a small area, all of it.
Oh, snap. Brother Bones, you already cheated, man. You got
Well, the Micmac, I've been up on them. I don't know why these people sleeping.
Because we gonna get into, because this link here, this reference here, this article here is going to get into deeper into the Micmac and who are all these Micmacs that are really that Europeans have divided up into several different tribes, but they all still fall under Micmac. And you're going to see the connection. And you're going to see when we start mentioning, I'm going to start mentioning names. And when you see these names or hear these names, you're going to know the ones that are on this picture, on this link, can't be these people. Because, again, I'll send the links to A2. And you can please, if you, like I said, you can use them as you please on the website so people can see for themselves. Where it's discussing that many historians have chronicled Micmac history only from written documentation left behind by early European explorers. See, here's the problem again. They're going by what was left behind by early European explorers and trying to tell you that there was no written record that the Micmac kept, but only what these Europeans go. So it says, however, to better understand our past and our homeland requires knowledge of many different old stories passed down by generations of Micmac. To begin this amazing journey, we must go back 13,000 years.
How many? How many?
13,000 years. And it said to the end of the last ice age that covered most of eastern North America. And it says that archaeological evidence in central Nova Scotia shows that hunting-gathering groups of people, see here we go, that hunting-gathering groups followed the caribou to the area at that time. Now, I'm going to stop because, again, hunter-gatherers do not pay attention to the stars. You follow the food. There is a huge difference. But we're going to get into, because you notice how every time they mention an ancient people, they always talk about them being hunter-gatherers. They never talk about them, but how these hunter-gatherers all of a sudden started making all these established civilizations. It doesn't add up, and it doesn't make sense. So I want to keep reading here. And it goes on to talk about those that encamped at the foot of the Copquid Mountains. The Micmac elders today maintain that these early settlers were our forefathers. There are over 800 sites of early Micmac occupation scattered across from Nova Scotia, including primary locations of Bloomington, the Burt, some other word that I can't read because I know it's in that Scotland language, Scotia. So I'm not even going to butcher it. Starts with a K.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What does forefathers mean?
Those that came before, like your forehead is the front part of your head. Did that answer your question?
Okay.
It's gonna get greater. Keep listening. Watch. It's gonna come. You're gonna see. You have to understand too. This is written from an oral tradition based upon the writing of the Europeans. So we're gonna get to a better understanding. We're gonna get to the foremothers. Don't worry about it. We're gonna get there. Hold on. It says Micmac occupied and enjoyed all of today's Atlantic provinces. Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland, as well as portions of the Gaspé Peninsula for thousands of years. This territory was known to them as Micmaci. Now, the caribou play an important role because your caribou is where you're going to get Carib from, and you're going to understand why. You're also going to understand why Santa Claus, kicking it with Swarty Pete, and the Seven Dwarfs also deal with the reindeer. So you will have caribou interchange with the reindeer, and you're going to see the connection between Swarty Pete and these Vikings. It says the Micmac Nation belonged to a much larger tribal group known as Wabanaki Confederacy. I've got to stop right there. Abenaki deals with Banaki, Banaka, Benjamin Banneker, Benjamin Banneker's Almanac. Someone's going to understand where I'm coming from in just a minute. This same confederacy, the same group of people were the ones that when they talk about those 1600s, when the Europeans started coming over, because again, the Vikings, although they're in Europe, are not considered Europeans. And I know that's going to blow some people's minds, but they are not considered European. But that's another subject for another time.
I got a question.
So, go ahead.
What year is this?
What year is what?
What we're reading.
This goes back, what do you mean? When the author wrote this? Is that what you're asking?
No, okay. So this article that we're reading, what is the year or the time that they're talking about?
This was the time that goes back, what they say start at 13,000 years leading up to the 1500s. Before the first, what we call Europeans came over. And here's what, I'm glad that you asked that, because the very next paragraph, it states that, well, let me do this first, where it talks about the Wabanaki Confederacy, which included the Micmac, the Melchite, amongst others. But I wanted to mention this, the Abenaki. That's why I said before, the Abenaki. They were all members of the larger Algonquian family, which occupied the lands east of the St. Lawrence River.
Oh no.
What's the matter?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You multitasking over there. It said before the arrival of the Europeans in the 1500s, the Micmac were divided into 7 districts. Oh, this sounds familiar with these districts. And it talks about it said that each name for geographical characteristics of that area, and each led by a district chief. Together they made up the Mi'kmaq Grand Council, which governed by consensus over the entire territory and people. The Micmac nation was orderly, well governed, strong, knowledgeable, and successful. So when you get an opportunity, it breaks down the 7 districts and the names of what they mean. It says the Micmac people lived close to the waterways as the main source of travel was the birch bark canoe, carrying them great distances for trade and travel. The natural environment provided everything they needed, and they depended on their knowledge of the seasons, weather, animals, plants, hunting, and preparation skills for survival. Now they already told on themselves because hunter-gatherers don't worry about plants and all that stuff. They don't deal with the seasons, they just travel with the animals. Just keep that in mind. It said they used their resources sparingly and wisely with great respect, and learning was passed from generation to generation. The Mi'kmaq education, which still Mi'kmaq's Micmac, included teaching traditional survival skills as well as knowledge of other tribes within the eastern North America. Early colonists relied on the knowledge and resourcefulness of the Micmac for their own survival. But the rapid European settlement in Nova Scotia brought many changes to the lives of the Micmac. Foreign governments soon became the lawmakers, and followed by the creation of Canada. And let me skip down just a little bit because I don't want to bore anyone. And here it goes again to say that the entire population of Nova Scotia was Micmac. The entire population of Nova Scotia was Micmac. Again, I'll say it again. The entire population of Nova Scotia was Micmac. They now number 25,700 individuals, or 2% of the total population. Where did they go? Micmac now occupy only 26,000 acres set aside from them on a reserved land owned by the government of Canada. And again, you're going to find out these are these First Nations people that were mulattoes or Melungeons or mestizos that have taken over. But I wanted to bring out some things on that first, out of the first link of knowing that the people that are there still in Maya are still there. And then dealing with the Micmac. The Micmac, the canoes that they used, and we're going to get into this here shortly. The boats that they used reminded the other people of a turtle's legs and also a water spider. They would use 2 when they would row. They would have 4 big oars like a turtle's legs moving in the water, or they would have the smaller oars to row when they had more people that looked like a water spider. If you don't know what a water spider looks like, please look it up. But then it's going to make sense when you're going to see these words in Maya. So at your own leisure, you can read the rest of that article. It says, I'm going to skip down just a little bit. But it talks about the beat of the drum permeates the air throughout the summer months as Micmac communities celebrate powwows, opening doors for neighbors to enjoy music, songs, and dancing. A traditional meal of moose, venison, fish, blueberries, and the famous Micmac or Micmac bread is often served. So they're telling you all these things were already done. And then it goes on until the 1700s. And it explains the last 2 decades of our people were reverted to the proper spelling of the word Micmac now written as Mi'kmaq or Micmac with a Q instead of a C, is the plural form of the singular Mi'kmaq. Because it is plural, Micmac always refers to more than one Mi'kmaq person or to the entire nation. All Micmac are proud of their place in history as the earliest inhabitants of the province and work today towards cross-cultural understanding amongst Nova Scotians. I'm bringing that out. Wait, before I do that, I know Sister Gabrielle Union has a few questions. So go right ahead. Knock yourself out.
Well, so okay, so we're reading that not only is there um, tribes that still exist now, but there are tribes that still exist now that tie back um, a very far distance in time to
To give you some more history real quick, Micmac are credited for having the oldest writing in North America.
That's where we were going. The earliest writing in North America. So we still gonna get to again when people keep talking about this Ladino, and when I ask certain questions, they don't get answered. And that's not a shot at anybody. I'm saying when people say, well, the Moors did this and the Moors did that, and the Moors come from Moab. Well, who were the people before Moab? Moab had to have a mother and father. And who were their mother and father? And they got to tell you, oh, they came across the Tigris and Euphrates, and they came across the Nile. Come on, son. When people were talking about waters, they're talking about oceans. They're not talking about a river crossing the water, tribe that comes from across the water. So this is why you're going to see in these languages, and this is not from a religious perspective. We're talking strictly archaeology, and we're strictly talking history. That Hebrew is a language. Paleo-Hebrew is a language. So how could a people that did not exist come up with this imaginary language if they were imaginary people? What you have to understand is you got bamboozled and things got rewritten. Which is why you have people say, oh no, and you have people that get so caught up in religion that they don't want to look past the 6,000 years of the collection of books that you have the modern day Bible written as to deal with the new world. This is the mentality that they got you, that this planet or this section of the planet was empty. But we're gonna get back to this Micmac and who these people are. You have any more questions? Because I'm gonna move my screen down that I'm sharing because I want to get to the meat of the matter. But do you have any questions?
No, I'm pulling. Well, I just thought about something. I pulled the other day. There's a tribe that is. There is a tribe that was considered to be between the north and the south, but closer in the south, where their language. I'm just pulling this up so I can tie it in with what we're reading right now. No question.
Don't do that yet. Don't do that yet because you're going to confuse yourself.
Okay.
Are you cheating, Adam?
Actually, confuse herself.
So I say just don't do it. Don't you do it. Don't you do it because you're going to confuse yourself. Don't do it. And I know we weren't going to touch on the corn, but I got to go back to it because we're going to talk about the significance of this. So now we're going to look at. Can everyone still see my screen? I hope they can.
I can see it. I can see it on YouTube too.
Okay, because we're going to go down to where it deals with the bay. You may see it. It looks like the letter B, but it's pronounced bay, and you'll see it spelled several different ways. And I say this for a reason, because you have a lot of those that have contributed the title of Bey to Noble Drew Ali. But then they say Noble Drew Ali was pencil whipping and was taking documents that he collected together to make the Circle 7 Quran. So for him to put that together and start talking about the title of Bey, he had to have gotten it from somewhere. Could we not agree?
Yeah.
See,
Bey existed long before Noble Drew Ali. Bey means the way, the people of the way. Wasn't there someone that they follow in the other side of the books that they call the New Testament, that he talks about, I'm the way, the truth, and the light?
Mm-hmm.
and that way is capitalized. The people of the way are the Bey. And you spell it today the same way. Because what is that body of water that's in between the southeast part of the United States and the Yucatan as it curves around? What is that area called? What is that body of water called?
I think they call it a bay.
Oh, snap!
I might be wrong. Is it the Chesapeake Bay? Am I right?
And we get all kinds of bays, don't we? And the Micmac were known for what? They were doing the riverways, the waterways, the bays. Uh-oh. But now we're going to get, like I say, to the connection, and we're going to start to see that we have Bey or the people of the way. And this is also what they call a surname. It's not just what you think in the word of just being Bey, but it's also a surname of Bey, that you will find those in Mesoamerica that are classified as Mayans with the surname of Bey.
Oh, I got a question.
Go ahead.
Oh, so would I be correct in thinking that, let's just say I wanted to add Bay or another title to my name? Would I be correct in thinking that I technically am claiming a tribe or a people, if that makes sense, without like knowing?
Now say that again. Come back.
Without knowing? Like, would I be claiming a people, a tribe, without actually knowing, if that makes sense?
Without knowing.
Different. I'll start with the Bay title. No, but they're applying it totally different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a title. It's a name. It's like your last name. You can find people with your last name, your surname, or your maiden name in other tribes. It's just that's dealing with who you are, what you do, or your responsibility.
Okay.
But I wanted to bring that out, and we can go up 2, 3 more from Bay, and you will find Balaam, which are your jaguars. And there's also Balaam. You will find Balaam in that collection of books that you call the Bible, dealing with Beor. But we're not going to talk about that this evening. That's another subject for another time. It's amazing how you start to see all these titles and all these things that mean the same thing. Because wasn't Balaam was a prophet. He was a foreteller. But we'll get into that in Balaam a little bit later at another time. These jaguar people. And you'll find their signs, their symbols all over the planet. The cat people. Remember, the Sphinx was a big cat. So, but let's continue on because I really want to get to this part. It's going to get good. Can everyone still see my screen? I hope you can.
Yeah, I can see it.
I'm gonna put my cursor right there, and and then C, what we call the English language of C. That second word is what? Could someone read that for me?
Cob.
That's what?
Cob. Honey in general. Bee. Land.
Oh, you catching a cob? Has anyone ever wondered why taxi cabs are yellow and black? Originally, they wasn't all these different colors.
Oh no!
So we're gonna break it down. Y'all don't believe me, huh? So that's cob, but I'm gonna skip down a little bit, and we're gonna find the other part of that. Because remember, it's a taxi cab. Remember? Okay, all right. So we know that cob is a symbol of the honey, dealing with the bee and the land. So we're gonna understand something about the land flowing with milk and honey here in a minute. But no, you know what? We'll do that at a later time too. But I'm gonna scroll down and I'm gonna come back. What you say, brother? No sell out. What was that?
Swimming in milk and honey.
Oh no! Shout out to all the Patreons reading ahead. Hey, you cheating, Adam?
Oh man, getting the jump on things. Let's look at this T. Let's look on down and let's see what we got here. Let's look at this third word under here. It's a what?
Tax.
Oh.
That look like a tax to me.
Yeah, and it's a flat and couple thing carved in stone. Now, I'm gonna break it down like a Forsaken. Because see, I don't want to just give people a bunch of stuff. I want you to research for yourself. This carved in stone, this tax is the same people that you're gonna deal with the Natchez that we talked about before. That were your pyramid builders, your builders of your fortified places, your fortresses. When someone was injured and had a fracture or a serious bruise or scar, they would seal it with honey. You put the honey on there and it makes a natural cast. You can look that up for yourself because you're going to find out that they talk about when the Egyptians, quote unquote, were building their pyramids, quote unquote, that when the workers got injured, because because again, that gets back in the culture, when they would injured, they would seal their bruises and broken bones. It's amazing we got the bones on the panel. A2 Cobb, got the Cobb in the AM, in the Grand Rising. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Anyway, with honey. So I just want to put that in there. So your taxi cabs were representing your bumblebees, the land of the bees, and the land of the honey. And now you understand why taxi cabs are the color of bees.
And if you have any people that are studying to be veterinarians or are veterinarians, they teach that. They don't teach it to your doctors, but they do teach it to your vets to use honey, natural raw honey, to seal a wound. So yeah, you can also look it up there too.
And that's why what they call alternative medicine people and the vets are crying about the bees disappearing, dealing with the pollen and the honey. If you watch that movie, what's the movie with what's his name, the fake comedian that had the show about nothing? What's his name?
With Jerry Seinfeld. Yes.
Yeah, well, he played the bee. So all they see, they giving you are stories and they're feeding it back to you, but because you don't know what it is, like, oh, it's entertainment for the kids. Go back and look at that movie. And why people today are talking about why the D's are disappearing. Go ahead, bro.
I'm just saying, I seen that movie a few times.
Tell you have a new perspective. I'm sorry, I can't see the chat because, like I say, I'm on these turntables over here. I'm not as good as Brother Bones mixing and scratching over here. So if anyone has any questions in the chat, just please let me know. But I wanted to go back up to that, but I wanted to touch on that, and as you can see, there are a whole lot of words that we went over during this meeting. And when you get the list of words, you'll be able to look them up and cross-reference them for yourself. Because I don't want anyone to say, "Oh, that's just Doodle Vision making up words. He just doing stuff and he just making up stuff, and see how he just freestyling and all the rest of that." But these words that you see in Maya and Nuat will begin to make sense. Oh man, I'm sorry, and I stopped right there. Brother Thomas, could you read that top word? What it says right there? Where I stopped?
You mean Itza, water warlock, name of a plant. I can't. Neomilspagia. Neomilspagia. Imaginata. I know I messed that up. But
yeah, that's their so-called Latin word for that. But you see, the water warlock. Perhaps, oh man, and I don't want to get into it tonight, but we can get into it probably later day. We probably do like a super after hours for the advanced class. Because that water warlock is going to get you also back to the water dragon. It's also going to get you back to the iguana, which is also going to get you back again to the same style of ships that the Vikings had and the same style of ships that the Egyptians had. But you won't find those ships when it comes to West Africa because they wasn't selling anywhere. Uh-oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that? Yes, I did. So a warlock is not just the male version of a witch, but a warlock also represents a warrior, which is why you will find on the Issaquena plates in Greece, dealing with the Minoan civilization, that these warriors, these cat people, warriors that came by ships, were fighting the lesbians. And I don't mean lesbians in the sense of what y'all talking about today. These was a group of people from the island, females, that were called lesbians. Look up Issaquena plates. They were chiseled in gold and in copper of their battles. So you're going to start to see these same people going all over the world using this same language that no one is really paying attention to, but I guess we are. Y'all, oh man, I went too fast. But anyway, I apologize. The next word that we're going to get to, again, is we're going to deal with the ha. And you hear a particular group of people that talk about that ha and that sound of dealing with that water or to wash is also the sound of the ha, of the moisture, the warm air that comes up out of your mouth when you make that sound of ha. But again, we'll talk about that at another time. You'll also see that one word down there what talks about Hun in Mayan. Hun means number one. So when you talk about Attila the Hun, look that up again and find out what's really going on. But again, I digress. Let's go back up again and let's talk about these connections, because you're gonna see something here, and it's going to make more sense to you as you keep going along. I'm trying to move this up just a little bit where I don't do it too much. And again, can you give out that email address? Wait, but no, sell out. Can you give out the website, please?
Photogenisassembly.com.
Is there like a feed or login or anything?
No, there's no option to add any kind of funds to log into our website.
So you don't have to like enter in a credit card or debit card to get any information?
No, not at all.
No PayPal?
No, pal.
GoFundMe?
No, not at all.
Patreon?
No Patreon.
Just wanted to check and see.
Free 99. And the 99 is free.
I just wanted to check and see. Oh, and we already talked about the cocoon before on dealing with who they are and what they're representing, is talking about the type of plant, but also dealing with the type of rulers as well. But I wanted to get into something. Hold on just a moment. Because I really want to go back to this because I know the hour's getting late and I want to end this within the next 10 minutes. So, Sister Gabrielle Union, are you there?
I'm here.
I know you got about 10 more windows open on something we just said. So give us your first two questions out of those 29 million windows you have open. Go.
Oh man. The first two windows? Okay. Hold on. Okay.
It's gonna take us 5 minutes just to find a window. Laughter usually knows.
If I'm to understand this correctly, we are currently using words, not realizing those words have root to them in a language that was already here and not brung here, right?
Exactly.
Mm.
And we use these words or some derivative of these words every day.
Right.
That's why I said just simple words: tomato, yam. I keep going on just naming food.
Right.
Chili, cocoa, chocolate, squash, tortillas. But this section here is going to put some heads to bed. And the reason being, like I say, again, with those pictures, I'll at least get to one more link. But again, with these pictures, this section here, if you all remember, I hope someone was listening before, I would always give you all the magic word when you go down there to talk to the elders. Does anyone remember that magic word I would give?
Oh, it was, I wrote it down. Hold on.
All you have to do, you don't have to look any further. Dennis Williams, hit it. That song. You don't know that song? Don't look any further. What were they saying? Nobody like, what are they talking about? He would say something right after that. Mama Teo, Mama Teo. Y'all remember that part? No, nobody? Anybody? Just me?
I remember.
I don't know.
See, but y'all know that Biggie version. It's okay, she was old anyway. So y'all know that Biggie version.
I thought he was saying, "I'm a tell, I'm a tell."
Okay, yeah, okay. Don't look any further. Okay, I remember that song. Okay, I remember.
Mateo. If you go down there, you deal with Mateo. Now, here's the kicker: when you start, when those that actually speak Mayan, they run words together always. It's kind of like what we do, and we call it now. We have a consonant, or we have, I mean, not a consonant. I'm sorry, I apologize. We abbreviate words, and we break down words, and it's like, okay, well, how did that abbreviation come in? Like you start getting don't. Everything starts being contracted. Don't, can't, couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't, didn't. All the rest of that stuff. So when the words start running together when they're talking, but when you having to slow it down, and you start, and they say, Mateo, as you see here, Mateo, and it says what? Gifted or presented with pearls or beads, pedigree.
Mm.
You start to tell who you are. So when you come and you present the elders and the wise ones, even if you don't have a physical gift, the fact that you say that word, Mateo, then you have to give your lineage. Who are you from? You can't just say that word and be like, oh yeah, they're gonna. Who are your people? What is your name? What is your name? So anyway, just something to think about. So when people try to tell you, I'm from the Crooked Eye clan, okay, but what does that translate into back into your tongue?
Right.
And if you can't do that, then you're not going to get any answers. They're going to know you're faking the funk. I just thought I'd put that out there again. I've said that before, but you're going to hear me say it again. So when you understand what is Mateo, or Ma'ateo, because when you see it actually written out, it is M-A apostrophe A-T. You'll see it U or O-O or T-O. Teo. So when you see T-E-O, it is Teo. So when you see Mateo, and people are gonna tell you, oh, that's a variant of Matthew. No, it's not. No, it is not. Mateo. Anyway, I digress. You will also see another word here where you get into
It looks like
met.
me.
Oh, there you go. You say that again? Come on.
That looks like me too. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that was it. I want you to say it again. Again.
Oh, me too.
Look at this word. Can everyone see my cursor? When you go down like 1, 2, the third word from Mateo or Mateo. Yeah. You see that?
Yeah.
This word that you see, mi'ish or mi'ish, you will also see that word spelled with that M apostrophe I-K, where you into the Micmac. This is how you know who's real and who's faking the funk. Because when we went to that, we saw the Micmac and we went to that link, that website, those men, because you'll find out most Melungeons have a difficult time growing facial hair. Just look up Melungeons. You won't see very many of them with facial hair. This gets into the descriptive term of the Meek and the Micmac. Beard, the bearded ones, also called the spider fish. Hmm? Who's growing beards again? Is it West Africans? Anybody out there? Anybody? Somebody?
No West Africans.
So no West Africans growing beards. So now we're breaking down the Micmac. We've also discovered, we talked about again about dealing with the caribou or the reindeer and the type of meat that they would eat. And we also know about these reindeer and the legendary reindeer when it came to dealing with the so-called Nordic people. And Sinterklaas, Saint Nick. We're going to get it here in a minute. But let's go to the next link so we can go ahead and wrap this up. Are there any questions in the out of the chat? I apologize. I didn't mean to neglect you all.
No, they just they looking at the words in common. You know how Joe 47 and AJ Copper told do.
Don't say, I saw EJ Copper Tony was looking at that Homer or that Huma where we get into Oklahoma and the Huma tribe and who they are. Oh, man, some of us, I can't wait. I'm gonna figure that what I have to do is I think I'm just gonna have to just break it down and probably send one page at a time because it's like 14 pages. So I think that's what I'm gonna have to do. And then if you all or anyone, it doesn't matter, at your own free will, at your own leisure, or you can go ahead and charge. It doesn't matter to me. For people to have access, you can go to log on to the Patreon account. And I humbly thank you. But if someone could do me a major favor and put the next link in the chat, I believe it's the third link.
I put it in the chat. Sorry, there's a lot of noise back here.
Yes, I heard Sheila E going off in the background, so I understand. Thank you. Oh man. As I said, I apologize. This gets into but no, this is your field of expertise. But Thomas, could you do me a favor, sir? I know you've been busy tonight. Can you do me a favor?
What's up, sir?
Can you just read that for me?
Give me a second. All right. Oh. Chichen, it's I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. So if you tap on my screen, you'll be able to see what I'm showing. My screen share. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. Okay. We have El Castillo in Spanish. The castle looms at the center of Chichen Itza, a 79-foot pyramid of stone, also known as the Pyramid of Kukulkan. The structure embodies Mayan myth along with natural astronomical cycles. The phenomenon that El Castillo is famous for occurs twice each year at the spring and fall equinoxes. In fact, the effect is viewable for a week before and after each equinox. As the equinox sun sets, a play of light and shadow creatures that appears of a snake that gradually undulates down the stairway of the pyramid. This diamond-backed snake is composed of 7 or so triangular shadows cast by the step terraces
Wait, wait,
of
wait,
the
wait, wait,
pyramid.
wait. Can you read that part again? How many again?
Okay, this diamond-backed snake is composed of 7 or so triangular shadows cast by the stepped terraces of the pyramid. So there's 7 or so. So basically it's 7. Is that what you want me to read?
Yes, sir. And we're breaking down at the Micmac and their 7 districts. You're gonna start to see how all of this is connected here shortly.
All right. The sinking sun seems to give life to the sinuous shadows, which make a decidedly snaky pattern on their way down the stairs. Thousands of people gather to see this phenomenon, which may have been viewed by the ancient Maya as a manifestation of the god Kukulkan, the feathered serpent. But was the effect intentional or merely a happy accident? Come on, man! It happens twice. It happens twice a year. Why would it be a happy accident? Anyway, it isn't possible to read the minds of the Maya who built the structure in roughly 81,000, roughly 81,000. But various signs suggest the effect was deliberately created. The most obvious of those signs are the large snake head sculptures carved into the base of the stairways. As the shadow moves down the stairways, the body of the snake ultimately unites with one of those enormous heads. Other features of El Castillo suggest astronomical understanding and intent on the part of the Mayan builders. The structure as a whole seems to be aligned with an important astronomical axis. The west plane of the pyramid faces the zenith passage sunset. Meanwhile, each of the 4 exceedingly steep stairways that climb the pyramid has 91 steps, with a final step at the top, making a total of 365, the number of days in a solar year. 91 is also the number of days that separate each of the 4 phases of the annual solar cycle: winter solstice, spring equinox, summer solstice, the fall equinox. Then it goes on to read, using the patterns of light and shadow appearing on El Castillo throughout the year, the Maya could easily have tracked the seasons and marked these 4 annual solar events: the 2 solstices and 2 equinox. And so it seems the ancient Maya may have used this structure as, among other things, a calendar to signal appropriate times to plant, harvest, and perform ceremonies. So basically, what they're saying is that pyramid is a big calendar, a big old almanac. Go to the next.
Yes, sir. And you go back and read about the ancient Micmacs, and they were telling you again about the 7 districts, and they were paying attention to the seasons for the plants and the hunting. These were not just hunter gatherers. These are going to deal with the same people. I see that we have a question in the chat, and I guess I wanted to get clarity on that question as well.
It says it's from Straight Up Right Path of Nadawasi. Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing. So are none of our people is spread throughout West Africa, according to James 1 verses 1, Deuteronomy 32:26. So I guess the question is, are none of our people spread out through West Africa, according to James 1 verse 1 and Deuteronomy 32 verse 26?
I'll put it this way. Your people, which are our people, started here. The older pyramids are here. It went to Egypt. One of these days, we're going to break down the Balaam or the Baalim, and you're going to see the 4. And when you have an understanding of the 4 and where they went, it was here initially, then went to Egypt. So when you start here, and we talked about that. Matter of fact, I'll do this for you. It's easy to answer the question. If you get an opportunity, go back and listen to last night's live stream because we talked about those in West Africa dealing with the corn and how those came from that region that the Arabs pushed them from the northeast part and into Africa to the west coast of Africa, and that they had to be marked. They Mandi. So they had to be marked on their faces. They looked like the people of West Africa, but they were not the people of West Africa. So we kind of went into that, and I apologize that you're kind of coming in on part two of that. But it's getting back to the myth of the corn and the Mandi. So you look at the ancient myth, it's their creation story that happened thousands of years from the time that we think that these things happen. And then there are little undercurrents mentioning of what they call the new world over here, which we know is the old world. And I'm going to go back again to talk about who these people are and who these people are when it comes to what we call the end of the 17th, 18th, and the beginning of the 19th dynasties. And we're going to figure out that there never should have been a separation of what Europeans, more specifically, what Germans have deemed the dividing of these dynasties in Egypt, because these Egyptians were foreigners. And you'll find that out from Hatshepsut. They never resided initially in Egypt. That's not their native land. They came from somewhere and they had a connection with Queen Iti from the land of Punt. The land of Punt is not Libya. The land of Punt is the Americas, and I'm putting it on the record. And I'm not just going to say that. Matter of fact, in just a moment, we can get to that. I hope that I answered your question. If not, please let me know. But yes, there was some that went and then went again back into West Africa. That's why West Africans today have corn over there. They have peanuts over there. They have squash over there. They have yams over there, or we call them sweet potatoes over there. Those were American crops. So I hope that I answered your question with you just didn't come empty-handed. And in every land, again, every land talks of a famine, but the Americas. The only time a famine like that occurred to that effect was in the 1930s during the Dust Bowl, when Europeans that did not know the soil, didn't know what crops to plant, and created the Dust Bowl. I hope I answered your question. Hold on, let me see in the chat. Did he say yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down? Not yet.
He says it's okay. He says right, I get that. So yeah.
Well, you can join the panel too, brother. You can join the panel, and in that way, I guess, because I don't want it to get lost in translation between what you're trying to text and what we're saying. That way, you could probably get I can get a better understanding on what you're asking, because what we have to look at is the calendars that we have been given, the timetables that we have been given. So as they keep discovering things, and they hate to admit it, they're having to push back the clock. Because initially they were saying that maize was only like 5,000 years old. Then they said it was 8,300 years old. And then they had to come back and say, wait a minute, it's over 10,000 years old. And then they're discovering civilizations like the Sumerians that have their stuff chiseled in on the walls. And they're saying, wait a minute, it's got to be older than that. And then the West Africans are saying at least 11,000 years old. So they have to as they keep going to other civilizations that keep pointing to the Americas, they have to start pushing their dates back. They have to push them back. I yield the mic.
Do you want me to read the next page?
me. There's another link that I put in the back chat. We can go to that link.
All right, hold on.
No. I'm sorry, brother. You didn't confuse me when you said that West Africa, because the West Africans, again, this is why I say anyone, and I assume that you're not in the DNA, but those that try to do DNA from a discovering where you come from ancestry DNA, that they never mention these foreigners that those in West Africa call yellow monkeys. You don't hear any mention of that. You don't hear any mention of the yellow monkeys that came with the corn that went into West Africa. They also don't mention about the going back to West Africa, revisiting West Africa, not being their home, but revisiting West Africa, were American Indians during the time of the American Colonizational Society. So for those that are looking at DNA, why aren't any of those in West Africa showing American Indian DNA results? See, they can never get to that. So I'm sorry, brother, you can go ahead and read that article because it's gonna get good.
All right. It says Maimona Sidibe Kolabali explains how her company, Fossil Kaba, which means corn country, in Bambata, Mali, became one of the leading suppliers of improved seeds adapted to the Sahelian climate. Whilst living in the U.S. in the 1980s with her husband, who was working as an agronomist, Maimona Sidibe Kolibi discovered the use of improved seeds and returned to her home country of Mali with the conviction that there was a market for these variants. In a region where farmers traditionally recycle their own seeds, it took her nearly 20 years to get the funding she needed to launch her business. Today, Faso Kaba is tackling low adoption of improved seed and works with international research organizations such as CIMMYT, the Maize and Wheat Improvement Center to test new variants.
Okay, you can stop right there. You go back up to the initial paragraph.
Talking about the title?
Yes, sir.
It says Maimona Sidibe Kalibali explains how her company, Faso Kaba, which means corn country, in Bambata, Mali, became one of the leading suppliers of improved seeds adapted to the Sahelian climate.
All right. I just want to say that because it says Faso Kaba. The Kaba is what they call corn, feeding the soul and the spirit. Oh, they call it the food from heaven, the crop from heaven. Now, we talked about that, Kaba being the name for corn last night, and Kaba being over here, because when they ask again, Kaba, you're dealing with those women that were grinding the corn when the Portuguese came, and they said, what? You're as white as this corn. I posted a video. When I do things, I put in a lot of subliminal messages, and sometimes people don't get them, sometimes they do. I put in a subliminal message when I was talking about the chica. And the song that I used was Grandma's Hands. So we know that the chica, where we get Chichen Itza, the chica is the great mother that's grinding the corn. But hand in Maya is Kaaba, which is the same Kaaba that you're going to find for feeding the soul and the spirit, because your granny's soothing hands, the same one that's grinding the cornmeal, the same one that's comforting you, the same one initially that the golden child was sitting in her lap, that you see today as the Madonna and child. It was the great mother and child. And the names change. Again, you will find Ka and Ba in the Kemetic language, meaning the soul and the spirit for feeding the food. But I wanted to get into Ladino. To the brother, please let me know. You said you don't want to interrupt the wisdom. You'll never interrupt in the wisdom, sir, because you had a question, and I wanted to make sure the reason why I stress certain things is when we put things with timelines. Because because I'll tell you right now, the collection of books that are called the Bible, the timelines are off, which is why a lot of these anthropologists and historians and scientists were trying to find these places and to find these certain artifacts based upon the calendar of the collection of books called the Bible. The calendar of that book is off. The Egyptian calendar is off. The calendar that has been spot on, even that's why I said, he's like, oh, Quetzalcoatl. Why are they reading about Quetzalcoatl? The keepers of time were those from the Americas. Always have been, always will be. When he read about the 91 steps and the multiplying by 4, plus the last step that God in the flesh stands up on, that last first step that comes connected to all the 91 steps on the 4 sides, and going down that pyramid, as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up. And if I be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. Brother that's in the chat, you know what I'm talking about. Things are going to make sense when you find out the timelines and you find out the land masses that some of these events and some of these words came from. But I know some are still listening because they wanted to get back to dealing with Micmac. And they really get to that in Ladino. But I wanted to break it down dealing with Ladino. But before I do that, I want to make sure, because I know Sister Gabrielle Union has a question. So I'm going to put a pin in it and I'm going to come back.
Oh, I can ask the question now?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Okay. This kind of goes back into yesterday too. And other conversations and readings that have gone on. So I wanted to find out where Mali is. So I typed it in. And it says that Mali, this particular area, Bambara, they are the Mendi people. Now they have a story. And the story is kind of interesting. Okay, they called themselves Banmana, which means the ones who refuse submission. They have a story. Two brothers, Nyangolo and Baramgalo, reached the river. Either the Niger or the Bule. Stories vary. Enemies hot on their trail, out of breath and out of luck, they could find no canoe to make their crossing. They despaired as their pursuers drew closer until an enormous impolio, which means catfish, emerged from the water, kindly offering assistance. Some versions say the catfish ferried them across on his back, others say the fish turned into a bridge for them. The story goes on to explain that Niaglo, at the urging of his starving at the urging of his starving wife and children, killed their catfish savior, much to Barangalo's charging. The foreshadows the long-lasting rivalry between the brothers, passed down the generations to their descendants. It's said that all. I'm trying to get down to the catfish part. It says that the catfish the catfish brung them across the waters, built a canoe and brung them across the waters. But it was a people that built the people who they called the canoe people built a canoe for them and brung them across the waters. I just found that interesting, um, from what we read yesterday and other readings, trying to find out where Mali is.
And then you'll also find that King Aha, the first king of Egypt, or the land known as Kemet, was also called the Catfish King.
Really?
Yes. Aha is called the Catfish King. Think about it. What fish has whiskers like a mustache or a beard?
Catfish.
Oh, snap. I was hoping the brother would email me so I can send him the link to come in. But I wanted to touch on this, and like I say, because it's really going to get back to dealing with Ladino and this language. And they started this, and you hear people say, oh, that's pseudo, on dealing with the Mormons and Joseph Smith, and that he found the gold plates, and that they said he went to the Indians to interpret the plates. So the people in that area in which he found those plates would be your Micmac. And what he couldn't read was Paleo Hebrew and the Egyptian, and people laughed. And then they started to discover now, they're like, wait a minute, he was onto something. Now I'm going to put the connection because people are going to sit there and say, oh, no. Joseph Smith. And we all know what religious group they started, right? The Mormons, right? Everybody with me? Yes, no, maybe so?
Yeah.
These same Mormons ended up getting their land in Utah. Yes, no, maybe so?
Yes.
Yep.
We talked about this before, but for those that are just coming on board, those same Mormons or Latter-day Saints own what genealogical site?
Ancestry.com.
Oh, snap. And when you go on there, they have so many various records. You'll also find out they own Family Search. And they have all of these records. How did they get a hold of all of these records?
Don't keep us in suspense. Tell us, please tell us.
I'm glad you asked. Because they use American Indians, not Native Americans, because Native Americans cannot read, because I'm going to go back for those that are coming on board. There's a difference between American Indian and Native American. Native Americans are those that you look at today and you say, oh, they're Indians because they do this and they do that. Those are the plain Indians. They couldn't read Paleo Hebrew, the ancient language. The Indians that they were saying, I don't know, when they kept asking, well are these Negroes or what are these? And they said, well, we don't know. Because you're going to find out from the Micmac, again, you get your Algonquian groups. Not your Iroquois, it's a totally different group. We'll talk about that a little later. We touched on that before. Your Algonquian groups. So now you get into those that deal with the King Philip's War. So now you're dealing with Crispus Attucks. You're dealing with Benjamin Banneker. You're dealing with Massasoit. You're dealing with all of these people that they came in contact with. You come into all these people, the Algonquian groups that the Quakers came in contact with. You're coming into these different groups that you're finding out that they're saying, wait a minute, these were the chosen people. These are the same ones, again, that Elias Boudinot wrote about when they said the book that the white man has once belonged to us. And because we disobeyed and failed, they now have the book. They were able to read, and if you read the Book of Mormon, it tells you about the ancient battles that took place that match up with the battles in Bonaparte. How did that happen? Did they have a magic time machine? Or did they have American Indians by the name that we know today as Micmac telling them what happened?
So that's why it reads the way it reads in the front, giving
So James, straight up right path said he sent it. So I guess he responded. He sent his email information to your email address. So just want to let you know. Where did everybody go?
I'm here.
All right, I was sending the brother the link. So going back to this Paleo Hebrew that people are trying to confuse and say Ladino, and this is where this is going to come in. What the brother was kind of asking and what we touched on last night. I know we're going into overtime, but I want to give the brother an opportunity to come onto the panel. But going back to these people that they talk about being in North Africa and in Southwest Asia, known as the Iberian Peninsula, that we know that these were melanated people, and they were giving them corn, because we see that all throughout the whole area. They were giving them corn or maize. And again, we know that from even dealing with the Ottomans, aka the Arabs, and even going back further, we know about Sumeria, that they have them again on the walls, the bearded men. And again, we talked about before about the Issaquena plates that are a little bit later on, and we'll go back again during that same time period of the Sumerians. We have the Egyptians that talk about this corn, or maize, and they have it chiseled in the stone with the corn that was brought over there. Now, going back to Ladino. Ladino is what they call it, is dealing with Paleo Hebrew, ancient Hebrew, or pre-Hebrew language. Didn't start in Spain. Because if you'll notice, who were the captains of the ships when those Iberians started coming over? They had classified them as Moors. But you'll find out that these Moors, again, they were also AKA Arabs. And they used those Arabs as translators, which you will see, it'll be ... something the Moor, ... something the Negro, ... something the Muslim or Muslim, and they'll be talking about the same person. Why did they need these people? Because again, the Arabs had already been coming over here. They had the proof of that, of dealing with the tobacco.
Paleo means ancient.
Give her a prize.
Nope.
Access to a free website. You can have it.
I just found something that talks about the Paleo Indians. Paleo means ancient. So they're talking about the ancient Indians.
Now you with me. So when people try to talk about Ladino, and you're going to find out these words, now I'm going to break it down. I've done it before, and I'm going to do it again. Maya is what we call the people, and what they call the language is what is called the ancient language. Now, those that went by way of the waters, it became known as Nuwat. And I'll spell it here in just a minute. If y'all give me a couple of minutes, I see the brother has just come in. I'm going to yield the mic and let him to come on and introduce himself. I appreciate you, brother, for joining the panel.
Yeah, sure thing. All praises, all honor, and glory to the Most High. Yeah, my name is Straight Path the Gadite. I'm just following along what you were saying, brother. I didn't want to hold you guys. It's not like I'm coming on the game say anything. I'm learning like everybody else. So yeah, it's an honor to be amongst some of the great brothers and sisters. I'll say that, or good brothers and sisters rather. So did you get that, or am I on mute?
No, we hear you. We hear you.
All out of
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
good, bro.
so I mean, I don't. Yeah, some of what you, a lot of what you were saying, I actually agree with, because I am of the if you will, Israelite school of thought. So a lot of what you're saying, it does tie into what I have learned. I mean, of course, this is a new thing, because what I was taught, with some of the stuff that I was taught, dealt with the other side of the hemisphere. So I am, and to be quite honest, I am one of the ones that do subscribe to DNA, and there's a whole breakdown on that I could give. But like I said, I didn't want to cut the wisdom of what was actually being taught. So, just to yield the mic and give it back to the brothers and sisters.
No, you're good, brother. I appreciate you you coming on. And again, I wish that you had an opportunity to listen to last night's live stream, because we did go into that those that came into the land of what we call Mali, and going into that what we call the west coast of Africa, or what they talk about the slave ports, that these people came from the Americas and brought corn. And then there was another group of people that actually came, that they mentioned, from the east, that also brought corn. And that ties into what happened in Egypt. That's why I say, again, the only thing that's missing, that the events took place, is just the timelines are off. That's where my brother No Sellout comes in. He talks about timelines, man, where it talks about those that came in and they knew Joseph no more, or Joseph no more. And he came in, as you recall, when he was next in command under the Pharaoh, and told him about building the storehouses. Well, we've always been taught that the storehouses are dealing with wheat. But wheat doesn't last that long. Wheat is poisonous. You cannot eat raw wheat. So if they were going to put wheat into these storehouses to store up for those years of famine, everyone would have died because it's poisonous. But you can store corn at least 7 years. So this is what it's come in on storing when the whole world was starving. And as I talked about last night, if you stay, I don't know where you stay, brother, but I gave an example, and Sister Gabrielle Union was saying she stays in the Carolinas, and I asked her, does she have relatives that are in Virginia? She said, yes. I said, would you call them foreigners? She said, no, of course not. So when we get these stories and they talk about, well, the Hebrews were in the land of Canaan initially, and they came down into Egypt, but they were saying these Egyptians the Egyptians called them foreigners. Now, if you're in the land of Canaan, which is supposed to have been a colony of Egypt, you would know someone was from the land of Canaan. You wouldn't say, oh, they foreigners, because again, Canaan was a colony of Egypt. So why would you call these people foreigners? But they tell you that they came from across the waters, but they tell you about the Tigris, the Euphrates, and all these other rivers over there, but they never talk about over here. That wouldn't be from across the waters if you're just going across from one side of the river to the other. They're talking about major bodies of water, which is why when you see the language and you look at the Paleo Hebrew, not the Yiddish, and you know what I'm talking about, brother, that Yiddish, that's a whole different group of people. When we're talking about the ancient Hebrew, because I've had some discussion with brother Hebrew Israelites, and I was breaking down words in Maya and Nuwa, and they say, man, it means the same thing in Hebrew. I'm like, this is what I'm trying to tell you. So you and I would have an opportunity to build, because I would love to be able to build with you on that, and you'll start to see the language. This is something that you don't hear a lot of those that want to push Pan-Africanism. You don't hear them talk about language. You don't hear them talk about culture. You don't hear them talk about anything dealing with culture, whether it's horticulture or agriculture. They don't discuss it. But now we're seeing even tonight that you have West Africans talking about corn. Again, when you look at those crops, these are crops from the Americas: corn, peanuts, tomatoes, squash. But yet, when the Europeans got over there, when the Portuguese got there, they already had these crops. So these couldn't have come by Portuguese and Spanish, the AKA Iberians. There's no way that could have happened. So
yeah.
Go ahead, bro. So I wanted to give you an opportunity, like I say, because your studies are from the other landmass over there. But I wanted, like I say, the reason why I don't approach it from a religious standpoint, because people will shut you off because they already say, oh, you in that group of people. So I take it from a historical point. And so when you're seeing these historical records, you start to find out, well, wait a minute. The collection of books that we have that people commonly call as the Bible, these events happen, but they didn't happen within the time frame in which this collection of books talked about, because we've gotten the remixes. We don't have the original writings. We have people with that and elders that have passed things down, and we have bits and pieces of writings, but we don't have the whole collection, and that's what's getting us off kilter. With that, I yield the mic.
Yeah, and I wanted to say too, and we're missing books. So because there's a bunch of I've been on a mission for quite some time reading the Bible from cover to cover. So there's a bunch of books, that are missing, that are not even part of the canon. That depending on who you talk to, they would say that, oh well, those aren't really inspired. When if you have the source mentioning it, then it must be something to it. So I totally get what you're saying. And some of the West African cultures, like, see, I'm not of a closed-minded. I'm not a closed-minded person. So with me, I'm a person that I'm like the brothers from Coach and Bone show. I'm just seeking truth. That's what it's about. It's not about my school of thought or anything like that. Whatever is the truth, is what I'm seeking. That's the path that I'm on. So I get what you're saying, because certain West African cultures I've studied, and I've noticed that, for instance, I think you and I, we've had a conversation before concerning DNA, and I mentioned to you the tribe that I took a DNA test with, and they said that I was similar, that I had certain similarities with. I was similar to them on my Y side, Y chromosome. Well, when I did some of the history into those people, they have an origin story that kind of somewhat would prompt someone to believe that, wait a minute, these people had to come from the Americas as well, because they talk about cultivating peanuts, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, they also talk about corn as well, and we know that peanuts and corn, they're basically indigenous to this side. So, again, I mean, I don't want to hold, the family up. Basically, I'm just coming on, and whatever questions you may have for me, I can surely ask. But I mean, answer. However, yeah, I don't want to hold you guys up. So, with that, I'll yield.
No, we just appreciate you coming on, brother. And yes, we did. I remember it's been a little while since you and I, have had that conversation, and that's why I said it's what it gets back to, and that's my issue with those that are saying you're African, and I'm saying, wait a minute, you had people that came, and that's why I said I wish that you, because what we're discussing, I wish you had the opportunity to be here last night. Is when it discusses, like I say, those peanuts and corn, and those that are in the area that say that we came from the red corn, and that's their origin story. Even when West Africans talk about their deity of being Olodumare, and Olodumare pays tribute, has praises to corn. So wait a minute. I'm saying if your God, is that's supposed to be your highest deity, is Olodumare in West Africa, and he's paying tribute to another God, but see, they stop right there at Olodumare, and they leave it there, and they never take it up to the next level, because he's giving praises to someone, to another deity above him. And those are the things that we don't factor in, because if we get so locked into a particular dogma, then we don't read beyond that. And that's why I wanted to get into discussing Ladino, that there are two letters that you will find, and to the most astute chat in the cosmos, two letters that you're going to find. You're going to find in Arabic, A-L, all. In Hebrew, you're going to find El, E-L. And in Nuwapt, you're going to find TL together. When you find that combination, it means the most. So in degrees, like we have in what we call the English language, we have, degrees of I say high, higher, that's another degree, that's second degree. And then there's the highest. Well, in other languages, they don't have levels like that. So describing, when you hear people say the most high, saying that there are other high ones, but this is the most high. So when you see El in Hebrew, and when you see Al, A-L, in Arabic, and when you see the TL, which depending on what letter comes after that, if it's at the end and there's an I at the end, then you do pronounce it. But for the most part, it makes like a gutter sound. So if you hear me say Nuwapt, and I hope it's coming across Nuwapt, you don't really, it's almost like a K sound. You don't really pronounce the L, but it still means the place, that is the highest place. So you find the same prefix and suffix in all three of those languages. All three of the languages that were on the golden plates that Joseph Smith found, that he needed someone to help interpret. And when he took it to the Yiddish, the Jewish people, No offense to Jewish people, but it is what it is. They speak Yiddish. They do not speak Ladino. So those that are speaking Yiddish couldn't translate it. So when those from Spain and Portugal were coming over, they needed translators from North Africa that spoke Ladino, but Ladino didn't originate in North Africa. It originated in the Americas because, as we talked about before, the Itza was going across the seas because they were the water warlocks. And the Micmac had the languages. The Natchez, again, you were the builders. And when I send the group, and I hope, like I said, I can get it up on the website, and you'll see the words for yourself, because Aquila and the B, big words are made up of little words. So I want to be able to, I actually want to have a conversation with the individuals that keep talking about Ladino to break it down, because they stop right there in Spain and they talk about the areas in Spain, but they never explain how they had to have translators. Somebody was speaking the same language. That's why I give you the example of the great harlot, whose name I cannot mention, with Cortez. Someone, I'm sorry, go ahead.
La Malinche.
See, you saying that word again. You know I can't say it. Someone had to translate. And the ancient language that Cortez knew, how he came back and started to take over that area, was after he learned the language of the sacred ones, the keepers of the book in Chichen Itza. You know them better as they call the title of Zapata, the ones of the Sabbath. They try to translate it, and those that don't know, the city slickers, as we call them, will say, oh, Zapata, that means sandal. No, it does not. It means Sabbath. The P's and the B's are interchangeable. You'll find that all throughout all ancient books. P's and B's are interchangeable. It is the Sapat, the Saba. Sabathines. You'll read about that in the Quran. The keepers of the book. That's what they call them. The keepers of the book. So those that got misnomer, the Moors, could speak the language and were jotting down the notes that were keepers of the ancient language. And you still see a variation of that language in what we call law today, because law is really translated into Latin, which is equivalent to your Jewish Yiddish. But it goes back to Ladino, which goes back to Ladino is Paleo-Hebrew, ancient Hebrew, before what we know as Europeans kept time. The original timekeepers, the Americas. The Mayan clock never stopped, which is the Uli clock. Who were these ancient ones that they keep talking about? Even in the collection of books that you call the Bible talks about a first earth age. Who were these people that were here in this first earth age that they say they had no writings about? But now they're discovering these ancient writings and these ancient people, and they keep digging and finding out the Folsom people in the Americas, the Galt people in the Americas. How are they finding all these people now? And that's why they have to go back and keep backtracking, because they have to keep pushing the dates back, because they keep finding things. They keep discovering when the Ottomans said, hey, we were going over to the Americas getting tobacco and what they call Turkish wheat, which is corn. When the Sumerians have the people with the fish on top of their head, but they're bearded, and they have the corn in one hand on one temple, and then they have the bag of the pine cone burning to stop the mosquitoes so you won't get malaria. I know some of you like, man, he keeps repeating himself, because I want it to really sink in so you can do your own research with those links and find out for yourself. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hold anyone up. Does anyone have any more questions in the chat or on the panel or comments?
I found something. I put the link in the chat because I can't put. But I found something. Um. Okay, new foods are found and cultivated. Um. Okay. Archaic period was a time of much experimentation, especially with edible plants. About 55,000 BC, Indians in Mexico tried planting corn, maize, and squash. Seeds were traded to people in other regions. Knowing that the plants needed water, people cleared fields for them along riverbanks. The first planting of corn and squash may not have been for food. The squash shells may have been used as containers. The bright yellow corn pollen may have been used for decorating. Corn cobs were very small then, and kernels were like today's popcorn. Other plants, including wild beans and mesquite pods, were collected for food and may have been planted. Corn was soon carried south from Mexico. South American Indians grew corn in many environments. Indians developed a great number of varieties: popcorn, corn on the cob, and hard types for grinding into cornmeal. Some varieties grew well in tropical lowlands, other in tropical mountain valleys, and still others in temperate climates. In addition to corn, South American Indians in the lowland tropics grew manioc, a root that looks like a giant yam. They also domesticated beans, chili peppers, tomatoes, potatoes, sweet potatoes, you name it, peanuts, a grain called, okay, TMH corrected me, um, quinoa,
Keen.
quinoa, quinoa. Quinoa. I heard you coming for me. Peach plum, peach palms, and other fruit trees, coca, chocolate beans, cotton, tobacco, and a variety of plants used for medicines. In eastern North America, hickory nuts were popular among the Indians around 3000 BC. Several kinds of squash and native seed grains were cultivated. By 1500 BC, sunflowers were grown for their seeds. Amaranth is a grain that is now usually considered a weed. It was domesticated in Mexico and carried north for cultivation in the United States. Throughout the Americas, Indians ate fish, shellfish, birds, and game animals. In the eastern United States, along both ocean coasts of North and South America, discarded shells of mussels, clams, oysters, and other shellfish were heaped in large mounds that can still be seen today along rivers and beaches. Fish were taken with hook and line, trapped and speared. Even swordfish were speared in the Atlantic Ocean as early as 2000 BC off the California coast. Seals, dolphins, porpoises, porpoises, okay, porpoises, and whales were killed from canoes. Ducks, geese, and deer were hunted with light spears thrown from a lever-like device called an alato. The alato gave the hunter more power than the human arm alone could provide. I just figured I'd share that. Can y'all still hear me?
Yes, I apologize for the delay. I was actually answering the question in the chat. They said how was it used to date, and I was saying how deep they find these objects and artifacts in the soil is how they determine how old something is. But again, that's that's hit or miss. So if it still gets back to we know that things were going on here in what they call the new world, but that we're discovering if the things were going on in this part of the world long before it was going on that part of the world, then we have it flip flopped on what is the new world and what is the old world. Because whether I'm 5 years older than you or 20 years older than you, I'm still older than you, right?
Yeah.
So we do know that corn was used to feed the whole world. So in order for corn or maize to feed the whole world, it had to be placed in a crop, and it had to, because again, corn, I said it last night and I'll keep saying it again, is manipulated by man. It did not grow naturally initially. Man created that crop. Well, a blend, they made a blend, a mixture of crops to create corn or maize. So if all these people, including your West Africans that say they came from the red corn, then we know where they came from. If the Egyptians tell you they didn't come from Egypt, they came from another land. And again, reading the stele of Hatshepsut, going to the temple of Hatshepsut, corn. Why is corn in her temple if nobody knew about corn? Because again, if the people that are remixing the books, remixing the writings, are burning all these books, and that we talked about before, the Cab Grand Rising show, which you can listen to from 8 to 10, what is it, 8 to 10:30 now, 8 to 10:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, something like that.
So I'm gonna get off everybody get off the hook here, so everyone can get up in the rising and be refreshed. I know Bud No Sellout already got his boots up on the couch.
No,
But
no, I'm here. I'm here.
That vegan
Boots on
stuff.
the ground right now. Boots on the ground.
Oh, you can sleep standing up. Trust me, I know. When I was going through medical school, I was sleeping standing up. So I have boots on the ground don't mean you're awake.
Dang.
Oh man. But it's just like I say, those that keep putting links in the chat about people, because I know, and see the crazy, well, I'm not gonna say the crazy thing. The ironic thing about it is I noticed that it's certain subject that Cab Grand Rising show brings up, and then all of a sudden people will do a video or a series of videos on that topic, and it's not coincidental to me. So somebody's doing something right somewhere, and someone's listening because someone is getting materials to speak on. But again, I wanted to reiterate that TL in Newark is the place, or the most high, the place. So again, in Newark, TL, in Arabic, AL, all, but they get Allah, and in Hebrew, El, EL. And you're going to start to see, when you get these lists of words, how these little words make up big words.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
There is numerous people stating that Indios was a term that we never, or our ancestors never called themselves. In fact, that Indios was a term that the Europeans called our ancestors. Is Indios a Paleo Hebrew word? And did our ancestors call themselves Indios? And is there any proof to substantiate that?
I'm glad that you asked. Yes. So when you get into Andes, because you go into Peru, you go into South America, what is that mountain region called?
Andes Mountain. ANDES. Some of the Andes Mountains.
Yes, sir. And that Andes Mountains is based upon what the people called themselves and what it translates into the children of God. It hasn't changed. The places of gold, Gunini. We talked about last night that it says that the jinn, which is where we get genies from, Gunini. Same folk. So when you start seeing this, you start seeing the Kunini, and again, when the Europeans came, that we know as European, the Iberian Peninsula, when they came and got to Puerto Rico, when they had the mixture of gold and copper, they called it Kunini. And even that coast now that's there with the people that came, when they got pushed away from the Mandis, got pushed west, they settled in the land, and it's called the Gold Coast in Africa, West Africa. But those were dealing with the same people that were cultivating the corn, that said that they came from the red corn 11,000 years ago. So I'll send that list too of the breakdown of what gold is, the Andes, and what we were calling ourselves, and the reason why the region known as India today calls themselves that, because they kept looking at the architecture, and they saw the architecture was the same as in the Americas, and they were having the temples, the elephantine temples of what we would call your mammoths, which were over here. So how can someone draw a picture of a mammoth and someone riding on a mammoth if they didn't know what a mammoth looked like? And again, you'll find who over there in India? Maya. You will also find the corn. They have the peppercorn hair. Peppercorn hair is for a reason. Corn rolls. Our people, corn rolls, still wear corn rolls today. If you go down to Mesoamerica, they will do your hair in corn rolls. If your hair is more fine, like the European hair, it won't last but a day or two. But our hair lasts for a long time. You can go and get any girl off the porch, and she's gonna be able to cook you up some corn rolls. So Indios Andes is what we called ourselves and what others called us. So on that list, and there are others that you will be able to see where this talks about who we are and what we are and why we are. But yes, that is why the people over there in what's called India today started being called Indians. They say, wait a minute, they're seeing the same things that they saw over there in the land that they call India today over here, and saying they had to be the same folk. But you start to see the same deities. Now I want to clear this up, because I want to say this, because we've always been taught that these people were polytheistic. They had this, and this, and this. I beg to differ. When you start to see the sources, it all leads to the one true source. It is characteristics of the one source. For example, I'm a son. I'm a brother. I am a husband. I am a father. I am an uncle. I am a nephew. I am a grandson. See, I keep going on and on and on, but it's still me. Various characteristics, and I play various roles to different people. I don't act like a father. I don't treat my father like he's my father. I'm not his father. I treat my children as if I'm their father because I am their father. I hope that makes sense. And I know, Sister Gabrielle, you ain't gonna ask me to say that again.
No.
There's various characteristics of the same source is what it means to you. Hope that makes sense. I yield the mic.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Thanks for answering the question.
And I'm gonna keep dropping series of videos on Ladino, Paleo Hebrew. I would drop some more sources on the Indios. Again, these, if you look at even some of my older videos, that's why I said again when they were talking about the Indios, when they were saying no, don't be an Indios. No si se Indios, don't be an Indian, which means don't be like the ancient people that live in the mountains. They never come down. They don't interact in the cities. Don't be like them. So with that, I want to give everyone an opportunity to give their salutations. Brother, I appreciate you coming on. Make sure we'll keep this chat active as well, and invite others over so we can have these conversations, because that's what it's all about. Is about having a healthy dialogue. And I appreciate you tuning in. With that, I'll allow you to give greetings or a shout out to anyone that's out there that you would like to acknowledge this evening or tonight.
Okay, good brother. Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
we
sir.
can hear you.
Please feel free to come back. It's an open door. And that's to anyone else to chat. Y'all know it's an open door. Don't be scared. Sister Gabrielle Union, go ahead and get this mic.
Okay. I had some other stuff I wanted to read. I think I found the trade language that was used or mingled together, not mingled, but combined together for the people who did not speak the native language. But I'll save that. What I have is this: taking care of ourselves. Call on God, but row away from the rocks. Work banishes those three great evils: boredom, vice, and poverty. So, peace to the panel, peace to the chat, peace to the silent majority, right?
Right. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Oh, I apologize, my bad. Peace to the brother that came onto the panel. Everyone, rest easy. Have a very beautiful night. Definitely peace and prosperity to you. You know that saying where you get told by the elders, stay prayed up? Well, I'm going to throw one in. Stay read up. Have a beautiful night.
Brother No Sellout, if you could give us your final thoughts on tonight.
Man, oh man, I made it through. Apparently, TMH had to salutate for me last night. So I'm going to do it for myself tonight. Peace, everybody. Appreciate everybody. I might be talking loud. I got the mic right up my mouth. Appreciate it, James, for having us over here again. Man, this information this information. I just like to hear alternative things. I think, somebody says something, then I hear alternative, and then I go look at it. And I'm like, yo, why didn't you see this? Why are you out here providing content and you're wrong? I don't like it. But I appreciate James for tying up these loose ends every time somebody unties them or leaves them untied. So appreciate you for doing that. Shout out to Sheila P. For being here tonight as well. Shout out to Bones. Shout out to TMH. Shout out to Gabrielle. Shout out to the brother that came to the panel. I got to go back to the chat to read his name because it was kind of complicated. Upright. I remember that part.
Yeah, I remember.
Shout out to Upright.
Oh, wait.
I was reading it to myself earlier, and I know I had it right, but I didn't get the chance to say his name.
I got you. Straight upright path.
Something Wesley, right?
Naduizi.
No, I thought you were just telling me now, dog.
Oh, no. It's straight upright path, the Naduizi.
Peace to that brother there. Yeah, and anybody else that wants to email James and get into this chat so we can have these types of discussions, like he said, I don't know, this is probably the longest I ever said something. James, I appreciate you for giving me this opportunity and TMH not cutting me off and muting me. Shout out to you, TMH. But yeah, shout out to the chat. I don't want to keep nobody. I'll see y'all on the horizon. Peace, y'all.
We appreciate that, brother. No shout out.
Look, hey, I'm wide awake. I could have kept going.
We definitely appreciate your input, brother. Boy, I'm telling you, man.
I'll be trying.
Oh, man. Brother Thomas, are you still there? I know you got a couple pots of coffee of that old Java brewing over there.
You see how you just threw me up under the bus, man? Like, for real.
You had a whole pot of coffee. You know it.
You missed the bus.
No, I
missed the bus, but I caught the cab. Anyway,
there you go.
What y'all seeing on the screen is just something to think about. Under ethnicities, you see Indio. Now, the first dot says persons of the indigenous peoples of Americas.
Make sure you bring the peoples with you.
The second one reads Indio. Now, this is important. The Spanish colonial racial term for the native Austronesian peoples of Philippines between the 16th and the 19th century. So if we're going to say that Indio comes from Spanish colonies as a racial term, but they only use it in the 16th century, then that means that word shouldn't have existed before the 16th century. But if Ladino existed before the Spanish were using this term, then it must have been older than the Spanish colonies have heard of it before they can create it, before they can use it for a racial slur or a racial term for Austronesian peoples. And if you want to look up, who the indigenous peoples are of the Americas, I'll click right quick, just so you know. Pre-Columbian peoples of the North and Central South America. So these are the people that were referred to as the Indios before the Columbian period, which, according to history, came about when the Spaniards came over here. Well, if they didn't start using the term Indio until the 1600s, and these people are pre-Columbian, then of course this term must have been used before they got here.
Oh my goodness.
And if the Mi'kmaq are considered to have been the creators of Ladino out of Nova Scotia, which is part of North America, then this should put all noise to bed. But I got a strange feeling it won't, but hey, that's okay. With that,
Can I add to what you just said?
Go ahead.
Okay, fine then. I won't.
No, go ahead. Say what you gotta say. Make it quick. Hurry up.
Okay. So, curious enough, interesting enough, haciendas translated literally means plantation.
Interesting.
Does not. So haciendas, I was told, means house, but I actually put it in to be translated, and it means plantation.
Yes, hacienda does not mean house, and that's why I said how they twist. The terms.
As always, James, appreciate the tireless work that you do, providing us with this information and the sources and the opportunity to talk to someone who has talked to their elders and who knows who they are, can prove who they are, and can take it back to Mayan culture and cut through all the rhetoric and all the BS. So appreciate you more than you know. Shout out to the chat. Appreciate you guys and gals, men and women, boys and girls of all ages. Of course, the panel. Appreciate you. And whenever James comes on, I'm always in student mode, and I get the chance to sit back and just learn. So I definitely appreciate it because it gives me just a little break, just a little bit. So again, James, appreciate all that you do. Appreciate the information that you bring about. Just know that as long as you've been doing this, when you wasn't appreciated, I can only hope that you feel appreciated when you come around us. So with that, I relinquish the mic and I'm going on mute.
I wanted to say to those in the chat for being here the whole time. I appreciate you definitely interacting. Again, the panel is an open door. We practice an open door policy. And to those that were just listening and did not want to comment, and those that may be taking notes, this chat room will be open for you as well. If you want to come and talk later, some people don't like getting on the air, and I understand that, and I totally respect that. To those that were on the panel, Brother Bones, who had a call he needed to take, sure he's going to be up. He's hitting those switches again, and he'll be hitting them up at the Grand Rising show. In case y'all don't know, y'all need to subscribe to Cobb. Make sure you cut in the Cobb. Brother No Sellout, you still there? Can you get that website for me one more time?
Attaching assembly at gmail.com. Look, every time you call my name, I feel like you think I'm asleep.
Just keep me on your toes, bro. Keep me on your toes.
Well,
Hey, TMH. I thought you was going on muting.
Make sure y'all download that app too. Get the app. It's not the app that pays, because nobody's making money from the app now. No exchange. Mm-hmm. But you're going to get some information that's going to help you. So
it is not app. The app that pays. It's the app that plays. It actually works.
You got the radio. You got the TV. You better subscribe to Ain't. You get to your own demand. And they got games for the kid. Oh, and for the kid at heart, too. So whatever category you fit in. Where they say 8 to 80, blind, crippled, and crazy, that's what they say. So if you're anywhere in between, or even if you're 80 plus, go ahead and download that app and get some games going on. So all of that, and 24-hour chat. So if you want to drop links, there's so much information on that chat. Honestly, I can't speak for anybody else, but I will never have to do a live stream again. All I have to do is just get that auto player and just click on the links from all the information and the sources on the chat and just let it play. Literally, just let it play. It's so much information, not only dealing with history, not only breaking down languages, not only breaking down the names of these tribes, but also things that you can use tomorrow. Because I understand it's hard to learn when your stomach is growling. So there are things that are out there to better yourself and your community, not tomorrow, today. So I want to say this, that for those that are still in doubt, because someone told me, hey, you guys didn't talk about Ladino enough, because she was supposed to come on and help with some of the translating because I didn't want to butcher some of the words. But since she was in there entertaining Sheila E. on the drum, and then gonna come in and tell you didn't talk about Ladino enough. So we're going to come back and do it again and just do straight Ladino work. So I'm going to break down Nuwa. The Na in Nuwa. And you're going to have this, again, because I'm going to send it to you. Like I said, I got to send it probably one page at a time. is not, which is the house. So when you hear phrases that come from the Caribbean and really in the southern region where they talk about nana, and the nana, the nana that would you call your grandmother or your mother or your lady friend, and Foxy Brown was talking about.
I was holding my
all that
tongue
means
for
the
the
same
Foxy
thing.
Brown, James. I didn't know you was going there, but yeah.
Everybody,
Okay.
that means the house. And
There you
remember,
go.
I told you about that dance
Mm-hmm.
that everybody's mad about.
Right nowadays.
And African Americans, well, man, they should come over there doing all that, and they don't even know what it's all about. But man, I didn't even get to that. Oh, I wanted to.
Hey, it's just a prequel, James. Just a prequel. We all right. I stayed up the whole time.
Get to that na and that nuwak. So the nuwak, when you put it together, is talking about again the house of the water that has the harmonious sounds. And what sounds good, because these people were bringing the languages. Now, for those that have the collection of books, because I already told you before about using that magic word to get in, bringing gifts, that you come before his court with thanksgiving, come before his presence with thanksgiving, and into his courts with praise, and all these things are going to start to make sense when you start looking at these words in Maya and Nuwapt and what they are. But I'll say this, I appreciate everyone in the chat. I appreciate the enemies, the friends, and the frenemies. And again, to Brother Bones, to Sister Gabrielle Union, to the guests straight up forward, in case you didn't know, brother, I appreciate you. I'm glad that we were able to reconnect. To brother No Spell Out again for not falling asleep. You know, he had his boots all up on the couch. And to that girl backstage, I'm not going to say it. Brother Thomas, man, you still keep hitting him, and I appreciate you. Like I say, he came from another engagement to tolerate us tonight, and so I appreciate that more. I'm telling you, y'all just don't know. I keep saying it, and I don't want it to lose value, but it means a lot to me. To my translator, who semi-bailed out on me, only to come in here to tell me that I didn't talk about New Wop. I love you too. So
shout out to Sheila B for dropping them hot links though. She had us on the links though.
Yeah, she all up on the grill hitting switches, but I'm like, hey, can you you up there flipping them links over, some hot links over. But then you'll go, you ain't even talk about Ladino today. You ain't talk about no Ladino.
Excuse me.
So when I get my official interpreter, let's see, I wasn't gonna put on blast and tell her she's still supposed to be translating that video about the Isakina plates that I'm waiting on.
Oh, I looked that up.
You put her on sandblast. You put her on just blast.
But I still love her anyway. Sister Gabrielle, you don't you do it. We're not gonna go back into another 30 minutes. We're not doing that. You say that for tomorrow.
You wait till he gets to his side. No, he go last.
Brother Dave Coy, because he be turning you on like, yeah, ask another question, Gabby. Don't you do that. Brother David Coy ain't in the chat tonight. Don't you do that.
Look, he can send a private message. Someone say, hey, just ask one more questions.
Yeah.
Can I read a sentence? One sentence. It's got
Hold on, James.
Don't try to make it a run-on. It better not be a run-on.
It ain't a run-on.
She just sounded like Will Ferrell when he just really tried to convince that last little. Are you sure? Because it has like a lemon. It's like a lemon extra.
Yeah.
Trying to hold you up. It's like just one more sentence. It's got like 3 words.
It's got commas. It's got a couple of commas. There's a period at the end.
Okay, you can do it.
Okay. During the 1400s, the 5 nations formed an alliance they called the League of the Iroquois, or in their language, the Hendusan. This alliance was intended to maintain peace between the Iroquois nations south and north of the St. Louis Lawrence River. That's it.
Confound you. Where did that come from?
The internet.
We're going to shut down the whole
Gabby
thing.
Gibbons.
Don't ask Gabrielle no questions, man.
Gabrielle Gibbons.
Wait, what happened? That was a good answer, right?
We're
No, it
going to
wasn't
pull
because
the
he asked for
plug
the
on the
source.
whole internet.
He want the source.
Oh, I put it in the chat.
Oh, you a fake Indian.
It would make you an artificial Indian, an additive and preservatives Indian.
Well, apparently, the difference between the two Iroquois is that the northern Iroquois wanted to do business with French, Dutch, and English and trade, and the southern Iroquois did not want to. And so that became a beef where the tribes, the Iroquois, were split into two, North and South, and were at war. Just found that interesting. Just wanted to share a little, fact.
Yes, and we're going to tie into all of that. I promise you, it's coming. It's going to get greater later. So for those that still have questions again, so please send all the emails to Atasha's family at what? Brother No Send Out?
Gmail.com.
And make sure you bring your peoples with you.
And make sure your peoples is there. Because you might get embarrassed.
So hopefully our interpreter will be on board and not giving music lessons in there, so we can really get into the meat of the matter, Ladino, because I know some people are going to say, "Oh, they didn't answer the question enough." So we're gonna delve in deeper with someone that actually speaks the language better than I. So once we do that, I invite anyone to come on to the panel when it goes down. So I'm gonna make sure the time is good for everyone, and definitely the time is good for her. And we're gonna get on there, and we're gonna get it in. But I will say this to all of the opposite gender people out there, that the opposite of my gender, you better thank the Maya. I already shared with you earlier, Sister Gabrielle Union. You better thank the Maya, because you're gonna find out some things.
Got to.
You're gonna find out dealing with the pennant. What is a pennant? The land of funk. Look, I tell you, because vowels are interchangeable, and you're gonna find out when you get that list. You're gonna be like, "Oh my goodness!" You better thank the Maya. I'm telling you, or the Nuwap, because the Nuwap is nothing but the language that they call Azteca. But the Azteca are the same people that just came back from across the waters, speaking that language. So ask yourself again when someone brings out something about Ladino, when someone asks questions about Indios, you go back and look again, ask them questions, and ask them why did they put Filipinos in the same category with the Indians of the Americas, and you're going to find out the words that they use and what they mean the same thing to us. You better start asking yourself these questions when it comes to language, where these words come from. And then it doesn't say something about, Spanish origin, Portuguese origin unknown after that. Just keep asking yourself, why?
I got a question. Ish means something like, right? So if it's Spanish origin, if Spanish isn't Spanish, what's the origin of Spanish? Is that a good way of thinking?
I'm going to give you one better, but you're going to see it on the list. But let me go ahead. Let me do this right quick. And then we're going to shut it on that. But as ish, or ish, means feminine. It is the day of the birds, the feminine birds.
Oh,
Mm.
interesting.
In the words of that famous West Coast representative, too
Oh my
short,
goodness. Oh no.
I ain't tripping no more. And with that, I'm off this cotton picking mic. See you in the Grand Rising, Guado.
Shout out to Tracy McGrady. I'm sorry, Dr. Tracy McGrady.
I'm sorry, doctor.